Hello.
Hey, everybody. Oi.
Hey, only 11 minutes past when we said we were going to start. That's pretty good, I'd say.
That's an on-time operation.
We could have started on time. We just decided not to.
You know, have you ever heard of the term fashionably late?
Yes. We were, as we like to say, kibitzing.
Kibitzing?
Ah.
Yeah.
Is that a Yiddish word?
Yes, it is. We were talking amongst ourselves.
Yes, we were.
We were talking.
It was fascinating.
We learned the world.
And Jeff was powdering his nose and didn't want everybody to see.
No, you told me I had to powder my nose, but I haven't. I don't have powder.
Well, it looks like you powdered your nose.
I hear that, I don't know if this is true or not, but the those liners that you put on toilet seats, do you have those in the UK? Where you, like, if you go
only for dirty people, yes.
Then you'd know about it.
No, I don't know.
He's an expert.
Anyway, they're kind of like a waxy paper, and they say that these things are great. I've never tried it, like to rub on your nose and your forehead and that kind of thing.
Is that before or after you use them?
Well, before you, when they're still not dirty. But, you know, if you use it correctly, it's only your butt cheeks that have been sitting on it. So, you know, I don't know if your butt cheeks are dirty, but mine aren't.
Well, I don't know why people get head up about the toilet seat. There are much dirtier parts of the bathroom that you can touch. Generally speaking,
like the handle going out of the bathroom.
Generally speaking, the handle.
Which I refuse to touch. Go figure.
How often do you have to shout for someone to let you out?
I'll go over and grab toilet paper if I have to.
So what is it about urinals, and why do people feel like if they're chewing gum that they should spit their gum out in the urinal?
Oh, good question.
Have you noticed that?
Because they're lazy.
I'm thinking, well, you know, if you're the one that has to clean the stupid urinals of gum, you wouldn't do that.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
Yeah, what's wrong with these people?
All these topics that we're talking about, the ladies don't know anything about.
Yeah, they might have an idea.
Are there plenty of lady urinals around?
What do you say, urinal in the UK?
Urinal, yes. Correct. If you just change the emphasis to the second syllable, you're doing fine. That sounds very English then.
It sounds like quite a controversy to me.
Exactly.
I love it, though. I like saying things differently.
Like Lane says, pro tip, don't eat the cake.
Yeah, it's not cake. Pro tip, good point.
Mind you, I've been to fancy places where the urinals are stocked with ice cubes, which means that there has to be someone going in there every 10 minutes to restock them, because obviously as you pee on them they melt, and they melt anyway because they're obviously going to. Because
what's the point of having?
Well, I think it's a demonstration of the affluence of the place, I would guess, and the fact that they have so many staff they can afford to have a bunch of them putting ice in the urinal.
What did they put, like cilantro or pickles or something?
Yeah. Pickle juice.
I don't know. I mean, what's the point of an ice cube?
I don't know. Well, it stops your pee steaming. How's that?
Ah, yeah, that's embarrassing.
Yeah, but if the directions, the angles of the ice cube, you could cause your pee to go different.
Oh, they make special ice cubes that are non-directional. Splash ice
they're round instead of square.
Know. The urinals were pretty fancy, so they didn't splash at all.
Oh, well.
Okay. I've also been to one where the urinals were on a huge floor-to-ceiling window that looked out over the city, and you're on about the 50th floor. So as you relieved yourself, you could gaze out over the city.
So you feel like you're pissing on the city.
It does. It feels exactly like you're doing that.
Pissing on the people below.
Yep.
Poor pissants.
All those pissants.
And we were always so impressed with it. Whenever we took the cabin crew up to this particular bar, we
So
used to drag them all into the gentlemen's and show them.
Including the females?
Yeah,
Wow.
absolutely. Well, we stick our nose in and make sure that it was fine, because there was a little Chinese attendant in there who used to get a bit upset. But since he didn't speak very good English, we just, carried on regardless. But the hand basins were amazing. It was like a multi-layered sculpture of little ponds, and water would flow around like a waterfall going from one to the other, and each hand basin looked like a little mini lake in this beautiful miniature scene. It was really clever. So the water flowed through about 10 or 12 of these things, and it was beautiful to look at and use.
You're beautiful to look at.
Oh, what can I say?
Which poses the question: why is everybody so upset about there being a window in the urinal on the A220?
I don't know.
Good question.
Stupid.
We're kind of talking about the same thing here, aren't we?
Yeah. I don't know if is there actually a urinal there, or is it just a sit-down toilet?
Well, it's both.
What? They have a urinal in there?
Well, no, no, you don't have an actual urinal.
Oh, okay. A urinal?
Urinal.
Okay.
Urinal.
I finally have the Adobe Audition set up, and I'm going to hit the record button. So would you gentlemen, and you, Dana, and you, Nick,
you're so funny.
Start your recorders.
You're so funny.
Yeah, I've been recording the whole time.
Gentlemen, start your recorders.
All right. So in a month and a half, you and I, Nick, will be here in Dayton.
Hey. What oh, hang on a minute. What Grand Prix is it? While we're there.
The Dayton Grand Prix? No, it's the U.S. Air Force Museum Grand Prix.
No. But we're also going to watch a Grand Prix together.
No, the Sunday before is the British Grand Prix.
Oh, right. Okay.
Silverstone.
Oh, brilliant. Right. It's now the 20th. It sounds like you just did something.
I just took a sip of wine.
Oh, okay. That's right. Then
I'm the only one not drinking again.
Great.
Maybe that's why the show was so good last week for me.
That might be why.
No, it seemed so good. It seemed so good to you guys because you're both drunk.
No, I wasn't. Was I drinking last week?
I don't know.
I don't think I was.
I was not speaking English by the end of the show last time. I was listening to it again. What on earth are you saying?
That's when you're at your best, Nick.
Oh, well, thanks. Well, perhaps most amusing, but
Okay, let's see. So, just for all of you people watching this live, and those of you watching the video after the fact, by the way, Miami Hick feels so bad because he didn't realize that when he hired that woman to do the comedy bit for the Hotel California thing, he didn't realize that she had used, and I didn't either. It didn't sound like it was copyrighted music, but apparently YouTube thought it was and got all upset, and that's why they blocked our video.
Well, I listened to it, and it looked like you could tell it was in the style of, but it looks like they used some different chords there. So you'd think, well, it's a tribute to, it's not a copy of. But
and the other thing is, most of the time I get these copyright things. That news thing stinger that I use, it's a public thing. It's not a copyrighted thing, but some African band uses it on their album, and they submitted their album to YouTube, and YouTube, when they hear us playing the news stinger, goes, "Oh no, that's copyrighted material from the African band or whatever." I'm going, "No, it's not."
God, really?
And so I've just gotten tired of fighting it. I keep like disputing it, even though I never hit the button that says monetize. I purposely, before I even start recording, I don't monetize the video, but whatever. But it's okay because they don't usually, they don't block my video. But this one, the one that Miami Hick did, I feel sorry for him because he didn't know, and I didn't either. It completely blocked the video. So that's why we had to go through all the commotion or the, whatever the word
Motions.
is, all the motions of putting up the regular audio, and then I was able to finally figure out a way to download the original video and then take out that offending portion and then re-upload. So the irony is that I was hoping to make it so that I wouldn't have to do much extra work because of the
Just laid plans.
I know. Okay, so let's go ahead and do the clapping thing so you can put your clapboard down. So
I don't want to have the clap.
we'll just do 3, 2, 1, clap. Perfect. Okay.
Anything but over here.
So, well, yeah, it didn't sound perfect over here either, but it doesn't matter. Let's see. The Stephanie is not going to be with us right away. She is en route, I think, from work. And Nick, depending on how he feels, may or may not stay there with us the entire time. Probably.
Well, I
not.
have a very busy day tomorrow, so if
Okay.
it starts getting too late, I'm going to have to go.
Gotcha. Okay.
And I'll be in and out just a hair. I'll run away for a minute and two, and I have appropriate break because I'm cooking dinner as well.
All right, very good. And I may have some in-studio guests. Cody, who was on the episode a couple of episodes ago when I was in Cleveland. He's my first officer again, and he may show up. He may not. So we'll see. Just play about your... Okay. Now, let me go here to intro. Oh, another point before we get the thing rolling is that I'll add the coffee fund, the Java Jive, all that kind of stuff in post because I just didn't have a chance to do that.
Stephanie's
Also,
here. Steph's about to come in.
Okay. And the other thing is that, what else was I going to say? There was something else that was very important. Oh, Radio Roger did record some voiceover, but I didn't have a chance to put the music bed to it. So that'll be in post-production as well for the audio only. So if you want to hear the great Radio Roger, you'll have to listen to the audio podcast. And
there she is.
Hello.
Hi, Steph.
Hey, Dr. Steph.
Hello.
Oh, look.
It works.
Nice.
I know. I took an extra minute before I just jumped on here. And,
So it probably wasn't selected, was it?
actually, it was, but I double
wow.
checked it.
Nice.
I don't know.
So it's just going to be at the intro, me doing the standard thing that I've been doing for quite some time. But in the real podcast, you'll hear Roger Stern and his great voice.
Cool.
And what else? I don't know if you heard me say that we're not going to do the coffee fund live. Okay.
Cool.
And Steph, you might want to side recorder.
I'm getting there.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool.
I'm
Just a
rearranging.
Reminder.
Windows.
Good point. I was about
Here.
to start the whole thing.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dana.
Yep. Mine is open. It's right here. Oh. Things were going so well.
Yeah, let me guess. It's
The session is running, but may not provide the desired results. That's what she said.
Well,
Yeah.
hey, that's what he said.
That is what he said. Okay.
That's like every show I've been on.
Yeah.
Mhm. I don't know. It seems
I'm
I
not
restarted it. I did not get another message box.
I'm not sure what the desired result is.
Hopefully that it records something useful.
I was thinking of euphemisms.
Euphemisms.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a harder question to answer. I mean,
Thank you.
That's what she said.
You did hear that, right?
yep.
Yes.
Okay. Let me back the volume off on that.
WAPG.
Still a little high for me. I don't know. Maybe not for you all. Okay. touch this one up. And mute that one. All right. Shall we do another clap?
Oh. Bleh.
Sure.
Here I come to save the day. That means that Mighty Mouse is on the way.
Probably get a copyright violation.
Yeah, I was just going to say, are you sure you want to play that?
Too late.
Deal with
I'm
it.
sure the email is probably already on the way. You have breached the...
Yeah.
Okay. Are we ready?
Sure.
Don't poke your eye out with that. Be careful.
It's okay.
Okay. 3, 2, 1.
I'm a professional.
Yes, you are. Professional something.
Oh, we don't know what, but
We don't know what. Okay. So let me just make sure we have everything recording over here. We do. And I have my cheat sheet, my script, and we are ready to go. So Liz, if you're ready, it looks like 1657.
WAPG. It's the Airline Pilot Guy.
Airline Pilot Guy, episode 377.
Yeah, he's up in the sky. It's the Airline Pilot Guy.
Hello, you're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show, the view from our side of the cockpit door. I'm Captain Jeff, your host, broadcasting live from Studio 206 in the Crown Plaza Hotel in Dayton, Ohio. Today's show was recorded on the 20-something of May.
Yeah, he's up
28.
in the sky. It's the Airline Pilot Guy. Get you right and it's flying by. With the Airline Pilot Guy.
All right. Today we're going to talk about a 105-year-old woman who is now my girlfriend. New jet fuel contamination incidents, China Southern A380 suffers hail damage, and so much more. So, get all settled in. Tray tables and seat backs in their upright locked positions. Electronic devices powered on. Flight 377 is ready for pushback. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Airline Pilot Guy Show. I'm Captain Jeff, a captain for a major legacy air carrier based in the U.S. of A. And it's an aviation podcast where we talk about aviation news and we cover your awesome feedback and then just regular feedback if we don't have any awesome feedback. And joining me today to help with that is from her lakeside studio in South Carolina. She's a doctor, skydiver, marathon runner, strength training junkie, IPA connoisseur, commercial multi-engine instrument rated pilot. She's like a genius, very smart, very attractive. I mean, she's the whole package. Her name, Dr. Steph.
I don't know. Some of that may have been slightly exaggerated, but hey, I'll take the compliments. Thank you very much, Captain Jeff. Great to see you as always.
Great to see you as well. And joining us from his studio in the English countryside, a professional photographer, former RAF, RAAF fighter pilot, current captain for an international airline based in London. It's Captain Nick.
Yes, 2.5 days to go. In fact, not even that. Thanks very much indeed, Jeff. Lovely to be back on the show. Looking forward to it. And yeah, it's going to be a good one by the looks of it.
Yeah, just keep saying that over and over again. It might actually turn out to be true. And also joining us from his studio near the Concord Covered Bridge in Smyrna, Georgia, barbecue master, motorcycle rider, pontoon boat skipper, underwater underwear photographer, and captain for a major U.S. legacy carrier. It's Captain Dana.
Well, hello, guys. It's great to be back yet again, and looking forward to a abysmal and less than 50% show. No, looking for a greater than 50% show, and looking for a great time.
That is funny and true. All right. Hello, everyone. I always look so forward to meeting up with my good friends every week and these great people that we have with us in the live chat room. I haven't even opened up the chat room window, so I don't even know who's there.
Only the greatest people today.
Well, of course.
Liz, Piper, of course.
Who?
We told the not so
Nick
great crowd to
Anderson's
get
actually
lost.
there.
Nick Anderson. Oh,
Nick
hey, I'm Nick
Anderson.
Anderson.
And, we've had Frank Chandler's there, and Matt Cole, and
Oh,
Lane
all right.
Street. Neville's with us. Hi, Neville.
Who?
And, Neville Bounds. Never heard of him. So that's just a few of the folks that we have joining
they're
us.
all great people. And one of these days, if you haven't joined us during the live recording of this thing, you should do it, because you'll really have a lot of fun with these fine people. Anyway, here we are, recording episode 377 on the 28th of May, 2019. I'm in Dayton, Ohio. Again, I was here a couple of weeks ago. Actually, was it the last recording? Yeah, I think the last recording was while I was here in Dayton, the home of the Wright brothers, and that's as far as I'll go, Steph.
Yeah,
So you won't get
no, we
upset with me.
already started this conversation, but
I know, but I didn't.
I actually am a little concerned for Dayton today, though. So hopefully,
Yeah. So why? Because of the tornadic
we had
activity?
some pretty nasty storms and tornadoes last night come through the area. Several good friends of mine live in the area, and I've heard from all of them, and everyone is safe and sound and has their property intact. And I know that's very fortunate, because a lot of people do not as of this morning. So
True. When we were traveling from the airport to the downtown area where the hotel is located, it was very slow going on Interstate 75 because of the areas that received some tornadic damage, and pretty devastating.
yeah, definitely thinking about you guys up there today if you're listening from the Dayton area.
Yes.
Sorry for my dog sneezing in the background, if you can hear that.
Gesundheit.
Which one?
Taco.
Oh, Taco.
Oh,
Always wants attention.
He's also, it's not growling, but he's like talking to Truman.
He's saying, Truman, no, just be quiet. She's recording, and you need to be quiet.
Yeah. Except he's not using his inside voice for that.
No.
Anyway.
It's like like the old men in church.
I know. Quiet down over there.
Okay. You should use your whisper voice, your inside voice.
No.
Anyway. Okay. Well, as I said, I'm on a trip, and I'm in Dayton, Ohio. And this 4-day trip, I saw this and I thought, oh, what an easy trip. The first day is just one deadhead flight to Chicago. And then the next day, 2 legs. Next day, 2 legs. And I think the last day we do 3 legs. But so it looked like a pretty good 4-day. Basically, to me, it looked like a 3-day trip with just a deadhead on the first. And because of the weather, the aforementioned weather that hit the Dayton area, it was in the Chicago area yesterday. And it turned out to be a very, very long day. But I can't complain because I wasn't even flying. I was just riding as a passenger. By the way, there are people in this world that are just very immature and don't quite understand the reality of like bad weather in the spring, summertime, and how it affects air travel. And when somebody like me in uniform tries to explain it to them, they don't seem to want to hear my explanation of it. Very, very frustrating. So I ran into that a few times yesterday, and then I finally gave up and just went and hid somewhere.
It's the modern world, Jeff. People aren't interested.
Yeah, it was just clear to me that no matter what factual data I was going to give and logic and all that kind of stuff, it didn't matter. I'm 2 or 3 hours late.
Facts, logic. Come on
I'm
now.
upset, and nothing you say is going to make me happy. I went, okay, well, fine. Be that way then.
It's all about me. All about me.
It's like big, giant adult toddlers.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how the gate agents do it. I really do not.
I can answer that question.
How? Drugs?
Well, no. Extreme patience. But if you ever stand back and watch the gate agents, especially of late, I've actually been noticing it, and you have to put up some type of defense mechanism, and I can see that the gate agents get a little frustrated with the same old questions over and over and over. And as a gate agent myself, I obviously didn't take my eyes out of my head and watch myself. But when you get asked the same question over and over and over and over and over, it gets a little irritating. So I think our gate agents in particular do a pretty darn good job of handling those questions. But I think technology also helps out as well.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the things that I was going to use. Because, hey, this website you can go to, and you can see that wow, if we left 2 hours ago, we wouldn't even let me finish my sentence. I'm go, well, damn. Okay, be that way then. I'm not going to give.
It's a me generated. Everything's about me.
Yeah. Anyway, but not our community members. They're all good people that understand reason and logic and understand this kind of stuff. So thank you for you all. I don't want to dwell on that. It's time to talk about what I'm starting, by the way, with the getting caught up thing, because I feel like I want to do that. My youngest daughter, Natalie, she says, "I'm your favorite one, Dad." She graduated from college, from Elon University, on Friday. And so at the end of the last trip that I flew, that was a Wednesday, I got home, and the next day drove the car to Elon. And Friday was her graduation ceremony. We had a great time. And Saturday was a lot of work, and it was very, very hot in Elon, North Carolina. What was it, Steph? Like 97 degrees or something ridiculous?
It's been, at least since Thursday last week, in the upper 90s here.
Yeah,
and it's continued today. My watch says it's 96. My car was reading 102 on the way home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so
like
my daughter had like this dormitory apartment thing, and she had all kinds of stuff that she had to get all packed up and taken to the cars. We had multiple vehicles to load up all of her stuff. And man, I thought I was going to pass out and just die. It was very, very hot. But we took care of that on Saturday, and then Sunday morning, still in Elon, but was able to watch the Formula One race. And then I got on the road, headed home, and back out on a trip. Here I am. So that's your Captain Jeff update. Let's go next to Dr. Steph. Sorry, she was about to
I also have a dog barking so loud in my ear right now.
They're behind. They're so cute. They're behind Dr. Steph playing on the couch.
They've been playing on the couch, and they have no other supervision right now. So you may want to start with Dana or Nick. And
do you think they're going to stop anytime soon?
It might.
Okay.
Chances are okay.
Dana, you haven't. Well, you were with us on the last program, or the last.
Yes,
show.
I was.
So, and I know you were on, or you are probably still on vacation.
I am
indeed.
We're
down in Florida at the crazy place with adults that have very high libidos, apparently.
Yeah,
according to the news reports.
Yeah, well, well, I should say
okay.
I went down and saw my neighbors who happened to own a rental property down there, and they were down there prior to heading over to England, which they just left yesterday.
There you go. That's the problem. They're British.
Yeah, well, Kelvin is British. You've met Kelvin.
Yep.
My buddy Kelvin. So they went over to England for a very nice visit, but they were down there for a month before they went ahead and traveled. So got to spend a few days there, and it observed some interesting activities going on in the squares. So they have live music, and they have DJ and different types of activities going on. I'm just going to leave it at that. and so we just had hung around. We played this game called pickleball. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of that, but let me tell you what. It's basically a combination between ping pong and tennis. It's really almost kind of like badminton, but it's not quite that. It's basically a hard, almost like a wiffle ball, if anybody knows what a wiffle ball is, with holes in it, and you get a paddle, and you're on a very small court that looks just like a ping pong table, but it's played like tennis, or very similar to it. So it's a lot of fun. We got out there in the 90+ degree heat, sweated a little bit, I mean a lot, and had some fun with that. And then left there and went for Memorial Day weekend, and I must remiss, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention the fact that thank you to the folks in uniform, both past, present, retired. I'm looking forward to going into the military for their service to our country, and especially those who have paid the ultimate price to the be lost in battle and or in service to our country. So I mentioned on my Facebook page, I very rarely post on Facebook, but I think you remember about a year and a half ago, I had the opportunity to bring Private First Class Pete Counter back into Grand Rapids, and he was lost in 1942 in the Pacific Theater against the Japanese. So my Memorial Day, in honor of him, I posted. So that's all I've had going on. I went to Florida to Springs, Silver Glen Springs, which is off Lake George, just north of the Orlando area, just south and west of Jacksonville area. Had a great time. About 400 to 500 boats, I'm guessing, in the Springs. It was a party weekend, so it was just a lot of fun. I'm just going to leave it at that because nothing involved with flying. I don't go back to work until this coming Saturday night.
Nice.
So then I am on for 6 straight days, and next month on reserve. So if you don't see my schedule out there, there's a reason, because I have basically Friday, Saturday, Sundays off throughout the month of June. I was lucky to hold that, and I think everybody knows where I'll be on Saturdays for sure.
Yeah,
and most likely Sundays too.
Just
on the lake.
Just kind of flying right under the radar, right?
You got it. Well, they're probably going to. I mean, we are not short staffed. I mean, we're not overstaffed this year. We're actually probably slightly understaffed, if anything. So on reserve, and we flying a whole lot more. And also, there was a bid in AE. I don't know. I mean, it was very quiet. Not a whole lot of hoopla made of it because it was all FO positions. But I did put my bid in for the 717. So if they happen to award it, I have my bid in now for the 717 captain seat.
Ooh, nice.
Very nice.
So we'll see.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah,
hey,
it'd be nice to have a little more seniority back.
I flew on a 717 yesterday on the Deadhead up from Atlanta to Chicago. Went up there, looked at the cockpit, talked to the captain, and he didn't try to talk me out of flying it. He said, "So would you be somewhat senior?" And I said, "Yeah, I'd be like number 1, I think." Number 1 or number 2, maybe. Anyway, yeah, nice jet. Nice jet. Everybody.
They
seems
send
to
a
be
lot of
happy.
them to Charlotte these days, so
Do they? Oh,
maybe we'll see you
okay.
around these parts.
Possibly, if I
Maybe.
don't go to the 7576.
Or Dana. I was talking about Dana.
Or Dana, yeah.
whatever.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
more
I
chance.
see.
Yeah, definitely. She'd rather see me anyways. I mean, what are you talking about?
I'd like to see both of you guys.
Right.
Yeah,
And Nick, too, for that matter. Come visit me.
Yay. I can assure you the 717 will not be making it over to England anytime soon.
No.
But yeah, I'm just I
try. Come on, where's your spirit of adventure?
Make it a third of the way, I'm sure.
Yeah,
A couple stops.
We can make it in a couple stops. I'm sure. Actually, probably has a better range than the 88 does. To be honest with you,
I'll
It's
blow
the same
stage
range.
route. I'm sure you could make it that. You can get a beaver across. I know that. You should better get one of your things over.
No.
Don't go there, Dana.
What do you say to that?
Take that snippet there.
I just had to know because
Do you
when I
like the
was a
beavers?
young student pilot, I was watching this guy convert a beaver because he was going to take it to Canada. From
Oh, yeah.
the
They
UK.
take all kinds of stuff across the
and
North Atlantic.
then you get the Alaska bush pilot. So what's your point?
No, I'm saying that you should be easier on a 717, whatever it's called.
Yeah, well, and again, I preface that with that there are no technically any openings. If there happens to be any backfill, maybe I'll get lucky. But everybody knows my luck, so that's par for the course.
You've got good luck. You just hide it under a bushel. or something.
Hide under a bushel. No,
Under a bushel.
I'm gonna
And
let it
under a
shine.
bush. I was going to say bush, but that's going to be
that was, yeah.
Well, enough of beavers and bushes. Let's see. How about? I'm not going to go to you, Steph. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Captain Nick.
Well, I've just been winding up the last few things I need to do to get out of this company. And while I was on the website trying to sort out airline tickets and things, and my little ruse to try and book some of my staff tickets to use after I'd retired, because they usually don't run out for 3 months, failed dismally, because the computer system, somehow somebody told the damn computer my date of retirement, and they won't let me do that. So
What?
yeah, I know, isn't that mean? So I obviously, once I've retired, I can then access my retired ticket. So I'll have to use one of those. Anyway, by the by, so while I was doing all that messing about, I checked my company email, and I found an email in there which was about a month old, because I don't normally look at my company email very often, because it's normally someone telling me off or something dreadful. So I don't like to do that. Anyway, I found something rather nice, which was a change. It was from Simon, one of our captains on Acme Red, and he was telling me that he had been flying across the States, and he went through Chicago Center, and the controller he was speaking to said, oh, this is Joe from Chicago Center, and I'm wondering if you can give my regards to Captain Nick, because he asked him if he knew me, and he said, yeah, I know Nick. So he said, please pass my regards. So I just wanted to give Joe from Chicago Center a shout out. I hope you haven't lost patience, Joe, because it's been about a month since this email was sent, and probably a way bit before that you actually spoke to the Acme Red flight. Anyway, much appreciated. Thank you very much indeed. And I always used to enjoy going to Chicago. It's a shame we still don't go there, but nice to know we can still chat to the guys at Center. And the only other thing is really just to say that it's been a very busy month. Or week, I should say. I'm popping out to see one of our listeners tomorrow, and then over the weekend on Saturday, heading up to Duxford again, this time to see Nick. And I'm always a bit nervous about pronouncing Nick's surname. Nick Camacho, is that right? I
Ding.
hope so. Good.
You got it.
Who will be there with the C-47 that has flown over to take part in the D-Day reenactments and all the flying that's going on between the UK and France. And Nick knows all about that. And if you're on Slack, there's a whole thread all about those flights. I'm not quite sure when we're going to be able to meet up, but I'm basically going over to Duxford Saturday afternoon, reasonably, not too early in the afternoon, mid-afternoon, and then hoping to catch Nick and have a look around the aircraft and certainly have a chat to him, and perhaps also have some audio.
Oh, that would be great.
For the next show. And if any of our listeners want to try and catch us there, I'm not quite sure what access we'll have to the aircraft, or whether we'll be able to get a meetup. It may not be worth you paying all the money for a ticket just for the short time you're going to be there. So I'd probably make it a full day, and if you haven't been there, and have a good look around, and then perhaps catch up with us later on. And Nick's saying he might actually organize something in the evening. I sadly won't be able to stick around because I've got a very busy day the next day. I'll need to get back, but they possibly organizing something perhaps around his hotel or at a pub nearby in the evening as well for a bit of a meetup.
There's a McDonald's down the street. I can recommend chicken nuggets. It's close.
That's where we'll find Captain L, no doubt.
How is it that you know all the locations of every McDonald's in the world, Steph?
She's got an app for that.
Yeah, there is an app for that. I stake these things out before I decide to go someplace. Priorities.
Didn't you see that movie about McDonald's?
Oh yeah, I've watched it several times. It's great.
It made her feel hungry.
If I ate McDonald's every day, I wouldn't fit into the cockpit.
Well, that guy was going through the entire menu. You have to, choose wisely.
Yes.
Yeah, I choose apple slices. Thank you.
They have those.
Yep.
They do? I was joking, actually.
No, they
I
do.
never go to
They do.
McDonald's.
They have a salad that has apple slices, I think.
You can just get apple slices in your
Really?
Happy Meal.
Oh.
Wow.
Cool.
Covered with citric acid, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Of
Got to
course.
keep them looking like apples several
gotta keep
days
them
after.
apples.
But citric acid is not bad
It's
for
just
you.
sugar.
Right?
It's just lime juice.
Yeah.
It's fine.
So Joe at Chicago Center, Nick, I've had conversation with him a couple of times in the airplane.
All right.
The one and the same. The first time 2 years ago when I was flying into Madison to be on that 30-hour layover so I could visit some of our great APG community members at Oshkosh that year for half a day. And then not that long ago, just a couple of months ago, we were leaving the Chicago area or flying through his airspace, and he gave me a vector and got to talk to him. And he also sent us email saying that this is the same Joe from Chicago Center that wants us to, or he's offered to give us a tour of Chicago Center. So that reminds me that.
So, Chicago's my next destination, so perhaps I need his contact info.
I'll give you his
awesome.
information, Steph.
Mm-hmm.
And might as well just talk about this. Captain Nick is flying out to Atlanta, hopefully, and about the week before Oshkosh. And then the two of us are going to drive up to Dayton, Ohio, where I am now. And we're going to visit the U.S. Air Force Museum at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. And speaking of that, Greg Peterson sent us an email. He says, I recall Captain Jeff and Captain Nick talking about making a stop at the U.S. Air Force Museum in Dayton later this year. I live in Lexington, Kentucky, and have been wanting to make a trip to the museum, and I thought I would try and coordinate so that I could meet you guys. Are you able to tell me the date that do you plan on visiting the museum? No, I'm sorry, Greg, we can't tell you the date.
Right, secret.
Yeah. No, you're flying in, I think, like the 13th, 14th, something like that weekend.
Yeah, it'll either be the Saturday or the Sunday, 13th or 14th, yeah.
And then we're going to drive up probably on the Monday, the 15th. And so we're going to be in the Dayton area probably Monday, Tuesday that week. And then eventually I think we're going to try to get to that place where we're going to get the RV on the south side of Chicago or whatever that town is called. Steph, what's the name of that town? I always forget. Makina, something like that.
Makina, something like that.
I think so.
I don't know. There's a lot of towns that sound kind of like that.
Yeah,
in
that
Illinois.
town. Mm-hmm. And then we're going to get the RV, and then we're going to drive from there up to Oshkosh. In fact, we'll be driving from Atlanta to Dayton. We'll probably drive right through. Doesn't I-75 go right through Lexington? I think it does. Get in touch with us, Greg, and see if we can either meet you while we're driving through Lexington, or if you want to take in the museum with us, you're more than welcome to. And anybody listening right now, as soon as Nick and I are able to nail down exact date and time, we'll put that on Slack and probably some of the other social media channels to let you know when we're planning on being there. And anybody that happens to be in the area and wants to join us, please do. In fact, I don't know, maybe my first officer, Cody, said, hey, why don't you record a show at the U.S. Air Force Museum?
Oh, no, that's an idea.
That's a good idea, actually. So maybe we can talk to, I think there are some people that are listening to the show that are have positions at the Air Force Museum or know people there. And perhaps you can contact us and let us know who we need to talk to see if we can get a little small corner of the museum and we can record a show there.
Preferably in the cockpit of a Phantom. And I can sit up front.
How are we going to do that,
Jeff
Nick?
can sit behind, and we could put helmets on and record through our oxygen masks. That would be cool.
I would rather do it in the XB-70 cockpit.
Oh, you would you? Okay.
Yeah, but you know what? They're probably not going to let anybody in that airplane. But that would be a thrill of a lifetime, that's for sure. Anyway, so great idea from my FO, and we'll see. Maybe, because we're going to have to record a show that week anyway, right?
Yeah.
So we'll see. So join Slack. If you are not already an APG Slacker, you should become one, and we'll probably have a discussion regarding this whole thing there. So covered that. We talked about Joe, and what else did we want to talk about in the did we cover everybody? I know.
No.
Steph, let's
So that's
hear
okay.
from you.
Nothing to mention. Move on. I'm just kidding.
Wait a minute. I don't think that's true.
Well, nothing flying related anyway.
It doesn't matter.
So
We
yeah,
don't care.
we already mentioned long holiday weekend, which was nice. My brothers were in town through Sunday, so spent a lot of time just enjoying their company here still. And it was really hot, as was already mentioned. So we spent quite a bit of that time on the lake on Saturday, just relaxing and not doing a whole lot of physical activity. And then, so Friday was my birthday. Yay.
Yay.
And we went out to dinner on Saturday night. And my youngest brother and I, while drinking some cocktails, just a few, decided it would be a good idea to get up early in the morning and run a 5-mile trail race at the Whitewater Center here in Charlotte. It was not a good idea.
Like a great idea.
It was a terrible idea. It was really hot. Yeah, it was really hot. But we did okay. Mikey put zero training into it, obviously, because he hasn't run for a while and won't run again until the Chicago Marathon. But he managed to win his age group, so that was pretty good. 28th overall, and I came in 82nd overall and got 3rd place in my age group. So we walked away with a couple of water bottles for our efforts.
Nice.
And then we spent the day at the Whitewater Center, just we took a trip down the rafting channels that they have, the man-made rafting channels, which are actually pretty impressive. There's some class 3 and 4 rapids in there, which is a lot of fun. We both fell out of the raft once. Actually, I fell out of the raft and I took Mikey out with me. Unfortunately, it's my fault. But we had a great time and did some rock climbing as well. And then I sent them off on their way Sunday night. And Monday, I basically spent recovering and cleaning and not going outside because it was like an oven outside. It's still like an oven outside. That I think brings you up to speed. Nothing too crazy.
Okay.
That sounded brilliant, actually.
Well, I hope you had a great birthday celebration, and it was great seeing your brothers.
Yeah, it was just another 21st birthday anniversary of celebration.
Did you get the key to the door this time?
No.
Isn't that a thing in the States? I don't know.
Key to the door.
Key to the door.
Yeah, in the UK. Yeah,
key to the city, maybe.
No, you get traditionally in the UK, your 21st was when you got a door key, so you could let yourself in and out of the house.
Yeah.
No, here you just get kicked out of the house. If you're still living at home by 21, get out.
Fair enough. And that sounds like a good plan. I wish I'd been able to do that.
At least I think I got kicked out before 21. Jeez.
And now your dad's living with you.
Yeah, exactly.
Sweet irony.
Tides turn.
Yes. That's okay. I suffer the same syndrome.
Yes, I know. Yes. But it's a good thing. It's good to be able to take care of those who have taken care of you.
Yes. I hope that my children follow suit.
No guarantees.
No guarantees.
Sorry. We'll take care of you, Jeff.
Oh, thank you. My APG family. Will you take care of me?
Absolutely.
I'll have an extra room someday, Jeff.
Okay.
Whole apartment.
Let's see here. I'm sorry. I'm distracted because I was trying to pull up something on one of my computers and I thought I had an internet connection, but apparently not. But now I do. And I just wanted to check something. Okay. All right. I think I'm ready to continue with, unless we have anything else to talk about, do we, before we move on to something else? Nope. Everybody's shaking their head.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Nope.
Here we go. Let's talk about the way that you can be a participant in supporting the show financially. It's called the Coffee Fund. And now we're talking about the Coffee Fund, which I'll do in post-production. All right. And I guess now we can shift over to the news.
Stand by for news.
Let's start off with some good news for a change. First item here is a 105-year-old woman celebrates birthday with her first flying lesson. And this is from Plane and Pilot magazine. The Wrights were still pups when Virginia Mills was born. She'd always wanted to fly, so she finally did. On May 18th, 2019, it was the 105th birthday for Virginia Mills. How did she celebrate? By going flying, of course, for the first time ever. She'd said she'd always wanted to fly, so with the help of the angels, she got her wish. Those angels, by the way, are the folks who work at the assisted living facility in Ohio, where Virginia resides, a couple of local pilots and a number of other special friends. The flight itself was memorable. Mills went up in a Cessna 172 with local pilots, CFI Gliozzi and fellow airman Mark Taylor, going out of Portage County Airport, Ohio. Gliozzi let Virginia try her hand at aviating so she could finally see the world from a new point of view. A side note, Portage County was the perfect airport for that, given its three-letter identifier, P-O-V. Oh, I get it. Point of view. Very clever. How'd it go? Gliozzi said that Virginia rocked it, flying the plane throughout the lesson and even landing it herself. Her new CFI even had a birthday present for her when she emerged, her very own logbook with the first entry signed off. How did Virginia like it? Well, as she exited the airplane, she collapsed and passed away. No, I'm just kidding.
No,
she didn't.
so sad. No, it's just kidding.
She said, one of my best birthdays ever. So happy, slightly belated birthday from all of us at Plane and Pilot, Virginia, and all of us at APG as well. And we'll put a link to this in the show notes. You can see the, she looks great for 105 years old, I think.
Well,
she
you should mention that. She does look very good. And, you know, I'm not sure if this story is entirely true because I'm pretty sure I've seen her work in the trolley on my last Delta flight.
Oh,
so
one of the
I have a feeling that she flies for Delta and she's been, you know, flying, you know, a lot. So I'm not quite sure how true this.
She was never at the controls before.
Well, that's probably true. Yeah,
her first flying lesson.
Yeah, yeah. She's probably chicken or veg.
I feel like I should make a slight correction to the folks at Plane and Pilot magazine. They said the Wright brothers were just young pups when, or something like that, when she was born. Well, if she's 105, she was born in 1914. Yeah, I do my math right there.
Yep.
Yeah.
You're correct.
Wilbur Wright passed away in 1912.
Oh, so not really young pup.
Not true.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, he was rather young when he passed away, but yeah.
but
not many years after their flight. Not many years after their.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just saying.
So we found two holes of this article already.
But it's a lovely
this is fake
story.
news, I think.
Yeah. She's actually cabin crew, and Wilbur was already dead. Yep.
I think this photo was photoshopped as well.
Her shirt is great, though. It took me 105 years to look this good.
Absolutely.
Well, let's just pretend it was a very true story.
Well, I rather like it anyway. It's nice that she got to live her dream and being at the controls.
It's a great story.
Hey, if I can do it, anybody can do it.
Yeah, you're 105, aren't you?
Well, I feel like it. I look like it.
No, that's the thing is that like you take a look at Nick and Jeff, and neither one of you guys look a day over like 55 years old. And so she looks. I mean, seriously, in comparison, my grandmother who passed away at the ripe old age of 83. I mean, my grandmother looked worse off than this lady did. So I mean, it's almost like the 100 years old is more like being 80 years old nowadays. And
it's the new.
So it's either clean living or good genes, or some combination of the two.
Or clean jeans.
I don't think clean living's ever gotten anybody anywhere.
Are my jeans good? Levi's
are they clean?
Jeans?
Yes. Are they clean? Have you laundered them recently?
Well, I don't launder them.
I took a shower last week.
How is Andy Anderson doing?
Oh, Pop's doing fine. Thanks very much indeed. Still, kicking around. And yeah, absolutely. I've been writing to him on Facebook, and all those beautiful pictures I had taken of me in front of a Sunderland. It looks great and absolutely brilliant. So all those have gone across. I noticed in one of the pictures I had taken, behind me were three. This is in the Duxford Museum. Behind me were three aircraft that he had flown, and I thought that's pretty neat to be able to say, "You see those three airplanes over there? I used to fly those."
Not a lot of people can say that, right?
No, exactly right. Now there was a DC-3, a Sunderland, and a Tiger Moth. So that was good. Just in one picture that I happened to notice.
Now it'll be fun when Nick and I go there, and we can start pointing out the airplanes that we've flown in the past.
We were already able to do that for Nick.
Yeah,
I know, but I mean, I think there are a lot of airplanes that I've flown that'll probably be there too.
I was going to say, it's funny.
Give it about 10 years.
Yeah.
Let's move on, shall we? Item B. 2 jets experienced engine failure but landed safely after receiving fuel contaminated with diesel exhaust fluid at a Florida airport. I'm thinking, what? What is diesel exhaust fluid? And I guess it's called DEF for short. That was at the Punta Gorda airport. The DEF was added erroneously to the fuel supply carried by a fuel truck. DEF is a urea-based chemical that is used to reduce diesel engine emissions under a federal environmental mandate. DEF is not intended for use in aircraft, and when added to jet fuel, can trigger reactions including the formation of crystals that can plug fuel filters and damage other engine components. The Aircraft Owners and Pilots Association strongly urges aircraft operators to become knowledgeable about the DEF fuel contamination risk and to promptly report any suspected contamination to their FAA Flight Standards Inspector or local FAA office. So I guess apparently, I'm not sure why and who, I guess maybe the fixed base operators, the FBOs added this stuff to the fuel, perhaps thinking it was some kind of a de-icing inhibitor or something. I don't know. This is all news to me. That's
but it is terrifying. It doesn't matter how many damned engines you got. If someone contaminates your fuel, then you're stuffed.
Yeah.
Really bad news.
One of them, had a single engine failure, and then the other one on short final failed. So a dual engine failure, and a lot of other cases of just one engine failing. But still, it's not optimum. So
no, for sure.
So if you're out there,
isn't there another additive that's added to small jet?
I think so. And I think it's there to kind of help with, preventing icing.
Icing, yeah. It's a nice
FSII, fuel system icing inhibitor.
Perhaps. I don't know. It sounds to me like somebody got things confused and added the wrong thing to the fuel. But apparently, well, any of you listening out there who fly business jets, you should probably be aware of this. You probably already are. But yeah, Prist.
Prist, yeah. That's the name of it, Prist.
Yeah, I remember that stuff. We used to put it in fuel. Thank you, Lane, our brain in the chat room. Or we have.
Yeah, but what is Prist?
It's.
I actually looked it up on the internet.
I don't know. Look it up. What it stands for? It's a. I think it's a name, a brand name for this de-icing inhibitor. We used to put it in the
fuel system icing inhibitor.
There you go, FSII.
There you go. That's just a name brand.
First is a name of for some FSII.
It's ethylene glycol, which is formative of what we use to de-ice the wings.
Oh, that's what I drink all the time, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, ethylene glycol,
And diethylene glycol.
Or is ethylene glycol the one that makes you blind and kills you?
Well, if you drink
I wouldn't recommend drinking either of them.
What's the stuff that's in this wine that I'm drinking?
Alcohol.
Yeah.
No, I mean
tannins.
Grapes.
Thank you, Steph.
Grapes.
Our scientist.
You're welcome.
Grapes.
Fermented sugar.
Yeah, a bit of dead yeast.
What kind of alcohol is like? Okay, never mind.
It's the good kind, Jeff. It's the good kind.
The kind that you can drink.
Who cares? It's the dihydrogen monoxide that you really have to look out for.
That's true. Yeah, that stuff's nasty. You can drown.
You can.
If you can.
I mean, if you breathe it in.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
Deadly.
damn dangerous.
Look it
to
up.
put near your mouth in case you breathe it.
Okay, let's continue. The incident in today's news folder is a China Southern A380 suffered damages after flying through a hailstorm. This from the Aviation Herald, a China Southern Airlines, which I just said, Airbus A380-800, was performing flight 3101 from Guangzhou to Beijing, was en route at 11,300 meters, which is flight level 371, near Henan, when the aircraft received a hail strike, causing the wind chills to become cracked. The crew performed a rapid descent to about 17,000 feet and continued to Beijing for a safe landing about 90 minutes later. The occurrence aircraft is still on the ground in Beijing about 16 hours after landing. And there's some pictures here, which we'll include in the show notes. You can look at them as well. And that big giant nose on that A380 is peppered with hailstone damage.
Looks like a diaper.
They've already fixed the problem. They've stuck some speed tape over it.
Some very big
patch.
There, I fixed it.
Yeah,
it's good to go.
Okay. Yep, off you go, mate. Well, you managed to land it through that windscreen, so I'm sure you can take off again.
Yeah.
Actually, that windscreen looks a mess, doesn't it? It looks terrifying.
It'd be very difficult to see out of that windscreen.
Yeah.
Yeah, very difficult. So I have a question.
Yes.
That's an awfully big airplane to be flying between Guangzhou and Beijing, was it? Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. How far are those cities from each other? Not very big. Not a
No,
lot.
so they're only a few hours apart. But
That's an
I
awful
mean,
big airplane.
don't forget that they used to fly 747s internally around Japan, and that's a pretty small place.
True.
In fact, that's one of the reasons they built the SP, wasn't it? So that they could operate short hops around Japan.
There's a lot of people in China.
I thought the SP was for like super long distance flights, but
oh, okay, you might be right. Actually,
I think the SP was for long.
Which is the one they built then that could stand an awful lot of sectors. They produced one version that was specific for Japanese.
Probably carried a lot of passengers and probably not a lot of fuel.
I'll have to have a look at that. Okay.
We used to fly the L-1011 at Acme Airlines between Atlanta and Orlando, 302 passengers, something like that. And it was full every single flight. And,
so where's Miami Rick when you need him?
Miami Rick, where are you?
Rick,
yeah. Come on. I know you're listening. Say hello. We miss you.
Yeah, tell us all about the SP, man. I need to know.
Yeah, we need some feedback so we can play the crickets. Just kidding. I promise I will not play the crickets. And finally, in the news folder, an accident. Unfortunately, we have to bring it all down.
I can answer that question before you go to the next feedback.
Please do. Yeah.
The Boeing 747 SP is a version of the Boeing 747, which was designed for ultra-long range flights.
Okay.
SP is a special performance. It's similar to the 747-100, except for it's a much shortened fuselage, and a larger tailplane, simplified trailing edge flaps. So it's a very stubby, and I don't know if you remember flying.
It looks like a cartoon airplane to me.
Yeah, and it's actually kind of funny because a church actually owned one that had it on the runway in Dayton.
I think I don't think it's Dayton. I think it's Akron, Canton. Akron, Canton. And it's Ernest Angley, the preacher who owns, and I think still owns, that airplane. I think it's still parked at the Canton.
And I knew it was up in that area. I can't remember. I knew it was
Steve Horn,
research Angley.
Our research department has told me that the 747-400D was the version that was built for short domestic routes, not the SP. So I hold my hand up and say, I've just scraped back to 50%, guys.
Woo! Thank you. That deserves.
And thank you, research department, Liz.
Yes. Liz and Micah and Lane
David Collier,
and Steve Horn and everybody else.
Thank you, David.
Yeah. Thank you for keeping us on track. Okay. Anyway, getting back to this item in our news folder, a Cessna 560 Citation Encore. Is this one of the airplanes they called the Slowtation?
Crustacean.
It's a straight wing Cessna Citation, not one of the super fast ones like the Citation 10. Anyway, this airplane was flying from St. Louis Regional Airport in Illinois and en route to Fort Lauderdale Executive Airport in Florida, the Kilo Foxtrot X-Ray Echo Airport. The aircraft climbed to a cruising altitude of flight level 390. At some point in the flight, ATC communication with the aircraft was lost. At 2052 UTC, the flight passed overhead the Fort Lauderdale Executive Airport at flight level 390 and just kept going, continuing on a heading of roughly 080 degrees over the Atlantic Ocean. The aircraft was intercepted by two Homestead-based Air Force Reserve F-15s shortly before it went down into the sea. So it crashed. So single pilot, very high altitude, and this certainly sounds to me like it has all the markings of hypoxia.
I would agree.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. At least he went peacefully. And we're going to talk about hypoxia in our feedback section. In fact, we're going to do that. Unless we want to talk about this anymore, let's move on to the feedback. What do you think?
Yeah.
Okay. Here we go.
Captain, incoming message.
All right. So, oops, I pulled up the wrong folder here. Here we go.
Pee break, please.
Okay, let's do a pee break. Pee break.
Pee break. Right back.
Toga! 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 Toga!
Shut up, Jeff.
Yeah, Jeff. Shut up. Shut up, Jeff.
Do you see this? This has not stopped.
What are they doing?
Like wrestling.
Here, let me white box you so I can see it.
I mean, it's entertaining, but it's annoying as all get out.
At least they're being quiet.
Kind of. Every once in a while, one of them just looks at me and barks really loud.
They're just trying to impress you.
Yeah, I know. I don't need to be impressed. Okay.
they don't understand that.
Yeah.
Yeah, look at me. Look at me, Steph. Look at me. Looks like they're having
Truman
fun.
fights dirty, though. He'll grab. Oh well, Taco does too. Just seeing that. Truman will like grab onto Taco's back leg, and then like somehow turn around and like bump into his face with his butt, and then Taco will grab onto Truman's ear and pull him around.
It is
movies for hours.
It is entertaining, that's for sure.
Oh, it is. Except for when you're trying to go to sleep.
Yeah, but they're wearing each other out right now, so maybe by the time you actually get to sleep, no?
You would think that.
No.
You'd be wrong.
Oh well. I wish I could go up and get another glass of wine.
Go get another glass of wine.
Yeah, but I gotta go all the way up to the.
People are enjoying watching the
upper floor. You think I can do that?
Yeah.
Okay. You entertain the troops.
Great. No, my dogs are going to entertain the troops. Seriously, I'm just going to let this go on because they're in a good spot for the camera to find them. Could give like the play-by-play action.
Who's winning?
It's a draw right now. They're both fighting dirty, so.
Yeah, aren't you supposed to referee?
Yeah. So we've got Taco going after Truman's ear, Truman going after Taco's leg. Truman will do this thing where he turns around really quick with his backside and bumps it into you, and then he'll kick backwards too. I'm like, that's.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I don't know who taught him that, but it's.
The Wieslers do this twirling thing where they defend themselves by sticking their rump into the attacker.
Okay.
That's a good move, that one. Looks like they're certainly having fun. They've certainly bonded well, haven't they?
Pretty well.
Well, that looks fantastic. That's just like nothing but fun.
Yeah.
And they're actually well matched in coloring and size.
Truman's a little bigger, but Taco's older, wiser. He's got more tricks up his sleeve.
Yeah. He wins by guile. That's the way I used to win when I was getting a bit old for this fighter pilot stuff. I found the only way I could win was by cheating or guile.
Yes. They're both pretty good at cheating here.
They are indeed so cute.
They are cute.
They're having so much fun. I missed having duckies.
Aw. It is funny. Anyway, I don't know if you guys heard Jeff went to go get another glass of wine, so it might be a minute.
Well, all the way to the bar?
Yeah.
Oh, Lord.
Well, I'm going to go check on my... I have new sod in my backyard. It needs to stay moist.
Oh, did you say that out loud?
I'm sorry.
I just did check on my pressure cooker. I just got a pressure cooker.
Ooh.
So I'm cooking up some ribs, some Korean barbecue ribs. First time ever. I try them.
Oh, sounds good.
That sounds wonderful. All right, let me go check on that.
What animal or
fowl, beast or fowl?
Yeah,
me. It'd be pork.
What animal is the Korean pork? Okay.
Yeah, I'm doing pork ribs. You can either do Korean short ribs or baby back ribs, or a little bit bigger rib, which is more like a St. Louis or a Chinese pork rib. So I'm trying the St. Louis because they're on sale, and they look good. So I bought one rack. Actually, I was going to cook those tomorrow or the day after because I was going to make some pork carnitas, which requires a pork butt. Don't get too excited. It's a Boston butt, even better. And so you slap it and get nice and tender. But anyways, I was going to do pork carnitas, which, this is a whole new experience for me. This it's a Instapot is, I think, the name of brand, where you use pressure and steam to cook. And apparently it makes some really good food. I haven't really used it yet, so I'm experimenting this week since I'm home.
How big is this thing? Because all the pressure cookers I've seen are just the size of a large saucepan.
Yeah, it's actually not too big. It's 8 quart, so you're about the size of your typical crock pot.
Oh yeah, that's right.
You can use it as a crock pot. It's more efficient than a crock pot, and it has more versatility. Because with a crock pot, you only have cook, which is high, medium, or low, really, simmer. So the this is apparently more effective. So I'm reaching out and branching out. I'm not going to do any stews or chilies yet. I'll do those in the fall. But
they've been around for a long time already, haven't they? My mum used to have one.
Yeah, they've become a lot more safe now. They're a lot more user friendly.
Yeah, that I can believe, because I think the only safety feature about the pressure cooker was this funny little valve that rattled around inside a metal spigot. And if that jammed, then the pressure relief valve, the emergency pressure relief valve, was a little rubber disc with a metal pin in it, and it used to blow out.
Yeah, they would actually blow up. Yeah, that's not. Thank God that doesn't happen anymore.
No, exactly right.
So yeah, I'm doing a little experiment. So it's just starting now, and it'll cook for 30 minutes, and that's about time Julie hopefully will be home. I will pull those out and coat them with a little bit of Korean barbecue sauce and put those under the broiler for about 4 minutes aside. And while that's doing cooking, then I will steam the corn on the cob, which takes all of 2 minutes in the pressure cooker. And probably I'm trying to decide I'm going to have Julie just grill the asparagus, or whether I'll try the asparagus in the pressure cooker as well.
Yeah, I personally quite like grilled asparagus, but
yeah. That's what I'm leaning towards. I love grilled asparagus.
I love asparagus.
Yeah, asparagus.
Yeah, the only problem with putting things in a pressure cooker is you can't really mess about and see whether they're done. You've just got to time it and hope for the best.
Right, it's true.
So they say, when you eat asparagus, do you get
foul odor?
It takes 30 seconds, and my pee reeks.
So they say that's like a DNA thing, that not everybody, it doesn't happen to everybody.
All right, okay.
I tell you what, it wasn't until I was in my late 20s or early 30s I finally figured out why all of a sudden my pee was stinky. I never figured it out.
This is a really weird conversation to come back into. I just
but asparagus, I didn't figure out.
I was hoping that's all we were talking about.
Yeah, so talking about asparagus, I'm trying to decide how I want to cook it. I think
episode title: Smelly Pee.
There you go. And I am drinking American beer. Look, American
Shipyard. That's good, from Maine, right?
Maine, yes. See, I know my Northeast beers.
And I'm drinking
Maine
red wine from somewhere.
And I'm drinking agua.
I'm drinking my Par 4 Session IPA in my new Whitewater Center koozie.
Very
nice.
Good.
Yeah.
Am I really the only one not drinking?
Wow. Yep. Yes. But don't feel just peer pressure to drink.
Yeah, you're just drinking recycled pee, Dana.
It doesn't smell like asparagus, thank God.
Oh, it's good.
Okay, Liz, thank you for letting me know that one of the lights behind me apparently was flashing, so I turned that off before it blew up. Have no idea where we are as far as timing is concerned, but I'm sure that Liz does.
Yeah, plus we have had add in the intro and also the coffee fund, so add that.
Yeah, so let's shoot for 10 minutes, so 250 total, Liz. Okay, for the episode, and I think we've been out for about
an hour.
Yeah.
Well, no, we've been out at it for an hour now, and we've only been out for 10 minutes.
Okay. Michael in Detroit says, Jeff, I heard recently the DNA thing is affecting one's ability to actually smell it. Yeah, that's what I heard too.
Yeah, because I've never smelled that, so apparently I don't have that gene.
You don't have smelly pee?
Nope.
Oh.
I eat a lot of asparagus too.
Huh.
I'm jealous.
Now, is it that
I think maybe I just can't smell it.
You just can't smell it.
I think I just can't smell it.
You go into the bathroom after
everyone else is like,
wow.
Whoa, what happened in here?
Have you been eating asparagus?
How did you know?
That's interesting. DNA is a scary thing, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when you see parents and their children.
Ugh.
Okay. Are we ready to continue the show?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you all. Oh, by the way, this is from Jared. Thank you all for the consistently entertaining podcast. I don't learn a thing from it, but it's funny.
Which
No, she didn't.
podcast is he talking about?
Are very entertaining, but really useless as far as useful information is concerned. Podcast. I wanted to send in some feedback regarding the discussion about hypoxia following the plane tale in episode 372. Captain Nick had mentioned the importance of hypoxia symptom recognition training for those that fly pressurized aircraft. In addition, there is a form of hypoxia I want to highlight that can also fatally affect us GA guys, Georgia guys, that tend to stay below 10,000 feet. Wait a minute. That's not right, is it? General aviation. Many single-engine GA aircraft have systems that use the heat produced by the exhaust to provide heat in the cabin. These systems generally have a chamber surrounding the muffler with tubing that connects to vents inside the cabin, some for window defrosting and others for climate control. When the pilot activates the system, air is routed from the outside into the chamber around the muffler where the air is heated, then into the cabin. I think my Volkswagen Beetle had the same kind of system, actually. Although the systems are relatively effective and eliminate the requirement for a separate heat source, there are risks involved. The chief among those risks would be any sort of leak of exhaust gas into the heating chamber. It goes without saying, but such a leak would cause exhaust gases to be pumped into the cabin. Because the exhaust gases contain carbon monoxide, which is CO, carbon monoxide poisoning, a form of anemic hypoxia, can affect those in the cabin. CO is extremely efficient at binding to hemoglobin, the protein in blood cells that carries oxygen around the body. The problem arises from the reality that CO can bind to hemoglobin far more quickly than O2. Because of this imbalance, an abundance of CO in the body can essentially crowd out the oxygen from being able to bind to the hemoglobin, therefore producing anemic hypoxia. All that said, I simply wanted to highlight the importance of hypoxia symptom recognition training for any and all pilots, not just those who fly pressurized aircraft. Although in a different form, hypoxia can still cause fatalities for the average Cessna 172 driver, even if he or she never climbs higher than 8,500 feet in cruise. Because CO is odorless, the pilot may be running the heater but never know he or she is suffering from CO poisoning and coming close to incapacitation. Sorry for the technical feedback, but I do think the issue is crucial to talk about for a pilot of any aircraft. Thanks for the great show. Apparently he's suffering anemic hypoxia at the point where he was writing this. Let's see. P.S. In case someone hasn't seen it yet, there's an amazing video on YouTube entitled Why You Should Put Your Mask On First. The filmmaker joins an astronaut on his recurrent hypoxia training and enters the chamber himself too. It's fascinating, but harrowing. No, it's a fascinating but harrowing watch to see the filmmaker become severely hypoxic and essentially have to be rescued by the trainers. Also, the film starts with Formation T-38 takeoff filmed from inside the cockpit, so you'll be hooked right away. Ooh, I gotta watch that. I haven't myself. Did you guys get a chance to look at that YouTube video?
Did not.
I didn't
Not yet.
either. Take me back to my T-38 days. That was a lot of fun. What do you think, Steph? CO is, he's right.
No, he's 100% right. That's why carbon monoxide is so dangerous, because it has a much higher affinity for hemoglobin than oxygen does, and that's why people get into trouble, especially with carbon monoxide poisoning in their homes. But the same thing can certainly happen in aircraft, or as you mentioned, even cars that have this type of heating system, if there's not good ventilation otherwise, or if you're at high altitude. Yeah, he's spot on. And I don't know that I have a whole lot to add to it. Certainly, we've talked about hypoxia a lot in the past. If you want to hear a really detailed discussion about it, you can actually check out the time I was moonlighting on the Airplane Geeks podcast. It was episode 362. I've looked it up since.
Why would they want to do that stuff?
Well, if they want to hear all the technical information related to hypoxia.
Great podcast. Airplane Geeks. They've been around forever.
Yeah, but he's ready to
fall off their perches soon. By the way, Josine mentions in the chat room that most cockpits have carbon monoxide detectors. So
what?
Yeah.
Not in general aviation aircraft.
I don't have one.
I have never flown a general aviation aircraft with a
Okay,
carbon monoxide
Josine,
detector.
you'll have to support your statement with
Yeah, come on.
quotes. Yeah,
You were
give
doing
us
so well, flexing your biology degree until this point.
Okay.
4 speeds of hypoxia video is also
Perhaps
pretty
she's
humorous.
mistaking those little fir trees, smelly fir trees for.
Those are not
fuzzy dice.
carbon monoxide detectors.
But I mean, it wouldn't be
Josine,
hard
no.
to
I
fit
mean,
one, would it? I mean,
no, it
you
wouldn't.
get them for your house. They're battery powered.
In all fairness, a lot of GA airplanes, and I wouldn't say it most, but I would say there are several, especially rental aircraft that I've been in, and personal aircraft that I've been in that do have those little. It's almost like a little size of a business card with a little carbon monoxide detector disc in there that will start changing color. I think is what happens. I've seen plenty of those, but not on a prolific basis. I mean, maybe 1 out of every 10, maybe.
I think
Yeah,
Josine
I mean, they probably
flies aircraft that come that are very well equipped with this kind of equipment.
Well,
'cause
and if
she
you're
says
flying in
most
cold
of them.
environments like Canada, where you're using the heater quite a bit more, that's probably something
true.
That's
just a little bit more valuable.
I was going to mention stuff. And down in Georgia, I hardly ever saw that, but up in the Boston area where I did a lot of flying, we it was quite a regular item in the airplane. So big difference, I guess.
And that makes good sense. But yeah, know your hypoxia symptoms so that you can recognize it should it happen to you for any of the 4 types of hypoxia.
And the differences between recognizing someone with cyanosis and someone with carbon monoxide poisoning from a visual standpoint, Steph?
Well, that's a good question. I don't. I'd have to look up
putting
that
her
up
on
and
the
get back to
spot.
you.
Because I'm thinking cherry red lips, flushed face is classic for carbon monoxide, whereas cyanosis will be bluing of the lips and bluing of the fingernails.
Why would it be different?
Because of the color the blood turns when carbon monoxide is present.
Oh, okay.
That's from my own aeromedical training, so I need to be probably backed up with some facts. But I'm scraping.
We never let facts get in the way here.
I'm scraping a 40-year-old barrel here, trying to remember.
That's okay. It's stuff I don't think about on a day-to-day basis either. So I'm going to get you some good information, and I will get back to you on it so that we can be above 50%.
Well, Nick Camacho,
because I don't want to get them mixed up here, because I probably will get them mixed up now that you've brought up all of the different symptoms that you can get.
Hey, folks, if you want accurate information, you need to listen to other podcasts. But if you want to be entertained, stay here. And there's just a chance that we might actually get something right, apparently. Nick Camacho mentions that there's a really entertaining hypoxia-related video on YouTube called, what is it called? 4 Aces?
He said
4 of spades.
4 of
4
spades.
That's it. 4 of spades. It was really funny. All right. Okay.
Oh, there you go. Josine says because CO has a greater affinity for the hemoglobin, and the bright red is what oxygenated blood looks like.
Yes, but did you say it the opposite way around, Nick?
No, I said that the symptoms for carbon monoxide poisoning are cherry red lips and red face, whereas for cyanosis, lack of oxygen,
will be blue.
Go blue tinge.
Correct.
But if you had extra CO, doesn't that mean also
no? Because it's just
lack of oxygen.
It's bound, like the heme molecule has something bound to it, so it's red.
Well, I apparently wasn't there that day during my biology class. Okay, well, this is fascinating stuff.
Good.
If you want to know more about this, please contact Josine Lafonte, because she is the one that knows a lot about it. Anyway, thank you, Jared, for that discussion about hypoxia, anemic hypoxia, to be whatever the word is.
Precise.
What were you trying to say?
I don't know.
Okay.
All right.
Stop him drinking wine.
Yeah, I should probably have not have gone for the second glass of wine.
Right, yeah, hang on.
Or
You're
the
on your
third.
third now.
Shut up.
Okay.
2.
Who's counting, right? I'm not going to be the only sober one here. Well, Liz is in the background, but maybe on air.
Yeah.
Well, you know, Liz, and she likes her scotch. Okay, let's continue with item number 2. Also dealing with hypoxia. And this is, well, it's some audio feedback. So let me hit the play button and see what we have here. I don't hear anything. Why? Oh, I know why. Hang on. Let me select the proper audio channel and let me try it again.
Hello, APG crew. This is Chike from Washington, D.C. And this is my first bit of feedback, so I'm hoping it goes around well. I'm writing in response to episode 372. There was discussion of the effects of hypoxia and high altitude cabin depressurization. And I'd want to leave some feedback as to what aircraft manufacturers, specifically Airbus, is doing to combat this issue. They recently certified a feature and it's been introduced to their A350-1000 model, and it will be coming to the 900 and other Airbus models in the future. The feature allows the aircraft to recover from a rapid depressurization when there isn't an adequate crew response. If there isn't an adequate crew response, the aircraft will slightly deviate from the flight path, descend to about an altitude of 10,000 feet or a couple thousand feet above the minimum safe altitude for its flight path, and contact ATC while doing so. The feature is meant to give the crew a chance to recover from the hypoxia and kind of save the aircraft or recover the aircraft and bring it safely to the ground. I think this is something that could save thousands of lives in the future, and it's something that I would like to see other aircraft manufacturers implement in their aircraft as well. That's it for my feedback. Thank you, and really enjoying the show so far.
Thank you, Chika. Great first audio feedback, and he gave us a link to the flightglobal.com article regarding the A350-1000 feature, which I guess is something that's optional. I'm not sure, or if it's a default thing. So interesting. An automated system. We know about automated systems and how they can kind of bite you, but apparently this automated system has some safeguards to prevent it from being activated accidentally. What do you think, Nick?
Well, the emergency descent procedure is not necessarily a very easy procedure to fly. Most pilots will never have done one for real. You only get a chance to practice the procedure in the simulator, and then not every sim. So it's not like you will have done one recently. So when you do get a depressurization, being able to carry it out perfectly every time, particularly when it's, if it happens for real and there's a real shock factor involved, I think the chances are that most pilots won't get the procedure perfect. There may be, they may forget the speed brakes. They may, in the Airbus, they may pull the speed brakes too high, too much, too early, and end up hitting the system that raises the nose when you get the aircraft too close to the stall, which is obviously counter to what you're trying to achieve, descend the airplane. So I'm quite keen to think that there would be a autopilot routine which you could engage to bring the aircraft down, basically to do the emergency descent flying for you whilst you cope with getting your mask on, making sure you're okay, making sure your first officer is okay, seeing what's down the cabin, checking your position, working out escape routes. It's very involved if you're in high terrain doing an emergency descent for depressurization, because it's not simply a matter of getting the aircraft down. there's a lot of places in the world where you would have to follow a complicated escape routine to get clear of high ground so that you could get the aircraft down, below 10,000 feet in time before your passengers started dying because they're running out of oxygen in the back. So I like that idea. The idea of having it self-initiate, not so keen on that. I think it should be initiated by the flight crew. In other words, I'd hate to think that the aircraft could do it on its own.
So I guess I'm not clear here because the head design engineer Dazoti from this article, the flightglobal.com, says that you have to do a push and pull input in order to make sure that you don't make a mistake. So when I first saw this, I thought it was like one of those things, as you just mentioned, that occurred automatically. Let's say there is an event where hypoxia has occurred and the pilots are incapacitated. Does this automatically happen, or is it something that has to be initiated by the pilots?
Does it automatically happen and you have to prevent it from happening if you've not responded to
I don't know
alerts?
I think we're just getting too automated.
I mean, I can see the value of this. Like if you're like the dude that was flying that Citation, if they had a system that detected that they're not receiving any inputs anymore from the pilot, and let's go ahead and initiate an automated sequence to get down to a lower altitude. I could see the value in that, but on the other hand, I see where you're going, Dana. These automated systems that are supposed to, quote, help the pilots, in a situation where, you can be exposed to higher risk, sometimes backfires. And then we have to deal with a system that's firing that is not supposed to be firing.
Yeah, it says here that this is the sentence that I read that made me think it would automatically work. It says that the emergency descent feature being considered for the 350, which would automatically initiate an unaided descent if the crew failed to respond to a cautionary alert, possibly indicating incapacitation from depressurization.
I do like that.
That's the bit I'm not too sure about because, quite honestly, the aircraft has plenty of warnings if you are depressurizing, and you'd have to be very lax to ignore all those to the point where you became incapacitated. And so I'm thinking, no, I don't. I think it would be pretty rare for you to end up missing all those warnings and then lose consciousness and then have to have the aircraft descend itself.
Yeah, but you just had a plain tale about the Helios.
Yeah, but to be fair, the difference between the Airbus warnings and the 737 warnings are like chalk and cheese. For a start, the 737 warnings, that horn is duplicated for various problems, and not every aircraft even had a caution to indicate why the horn had gone off. It's only in later versions, and even that caution I've heard from several 737 pilots saying it's not an obvious light. It's actually easily missed. So the Airbus ECAM warning system is very clear, very loud, very obvious in clear, bold, red letters that you need to conduct an emergency descent. So when you get a depressurization, so I think that is completely unambiguous, and where these two aircraft are such different generations that I think the Airbus warning system is so much easier to understand.
So do you think that this system is then not necessary?
No, I think it's a good idea. I think it's the actual handling aspects of getting the aircraft, a big aircraft like the 340-600 and the 350s is going to be a similar size, into an emergency descent. It requires careful handling to get it exactly configured right and get the air brakes out at the right point and get everything going down. Having an automated system that aids the pilot do that when he's actually also fighting to put his oxygen mask on and do all the other initial actions or that emergency exit drill, I think that's a damn good idea. But whether you were going to go as far as having the aircraft being able to self-initiate, that would be my only area for concern.
Okay.
Well, I think you guys are both missing the point here. I think it's a move towards single pilot operations. I think that it's a safety valve to back up the single pilot operation if they should go unconscious. Because if you really think about the commercial aviation world, when we talk about commercial, I'm talking about airline world. When was the last time you heard of both pilots being incapacitated by rapid decompression or a oxygen event? Of course, we know about the Payne Stewart event. We talked about the Citation that went out over the Atlantic Ocean. Those types of events are insidious and they may happen at a very slow rate. But what are the chances of both pilots in a commercial airliner being incapacitated? I've never heard of it, and I've never seen it.
Well, that very plain tale included the Helios 737 incident when both pilots were incapacitated. That's a perfect example.
No, well, that's okay. I'm sorry, I missed
the data.
The chance,
not single pilot operation, no pilot operation.
Well, I mean that, yeah, but it's definitely heading. I think it's a step towards that direction. The automation's coming.
I think you have a point. I really do.
And I misspoke. I mean, yes, you're right. I did listen to Plain Tales, and I don't know why I said that.
I never listened to Plain Tales.
Stupid,
I didn't listen to that.
It's a very rare. I actually listened to a lot of Plain Tales driving down to Florida, and they were fantastic to re-listen to some of them. But anyways,
what is Plain Tales?
Don't know.
I have no clue.
Today's is fantastic.
All right.
I have already listened to it.
Let me enter the argument here and say that we're already heading this direction of no pilots. We already ride on plenty of trains where there are no drivers, and if you look at all these air taxi, vertical takeoff, things like man carrying drones, they are all designed to go without a pilot. So the industry is heading this way, and it may not happen in our lifetime, but I certainly think our children or our children's children will be able to fly in a machine like that should they choose to.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, I agree, but there you go. Steam engines went out a while ago, so
I still like my steam engine.
Hey, I'm using Steam right now, so I like my Steam engine.
I don't know why.
I'm cooking with Steam at the very moment.
That's exactly right.
There's
nothing wrong with it.
That's true.
That's true.
I actually traveled on a steam engine not that long ago, and geez, you get a lot of dirt flying around. God, love me.
I don't think I've ever traveled on it.
Okay.
Really? Well, people
Steam
forget
engine.
that they burn a lot of coal. All that coal comes out out of the smokestack and goes flying if you open the carriage window and you get a face full of coal dust.
Are you talking about the Mad Dog again?
Yes. I mean, they have windows that open too, right?
Yeah.
A little breeze and ventilation.
Yeah, there might be carbon monoxide
Open cockpits.
indicators in some airplane cockpits. We have coal dust.
There you go.
Indicators.
Hey, can I back up to that cherry red?
No.
Because I learned something.
Okay, go ahead.
Go on, man.
I didn't know this. Or maybe I did a long time ago and I've forgotten it. My apologies to all the emergency medicine doctors and pulmonologists out there. But that cherry red skin color or lip color that you referenced, Nick, only seen in 2 to 3% of symptomatic cases of carbon monoxide poisoning. So,
really?
Yeah.
What's the usual symptom then?
It's just having a headache, being easily fatigued, and then it just gradually gets worse from there. More weakness, more nausea.
You don't display cyanosis, so presumably you.
No cyanosis with this one. Yeah, yeah. This one's much harder to pick up, which is why it's so problematic. But
right.
But interesting. I learned that, so I wanted to pass that along.
Appreciate that. Bing, 50%.
Bing, back to 50%.
Got it. Please note
that was like one of those buzzwords for boards way back in the day, and I've not thought about it in I don't know how many years. But there was like this light bulb in the back of my head, like, oh yeah, that is a thing.
Hey, you know what? I'm getting tired of talking about hypoxia.
I'm just tired.
Yeah, well, me too. So let's continue on. This is going to be a fun subject. JJ Pittsburgh, who has visited Dana and Stephanie and myself in the last month or so.
Doesn't he like me?
Well, we're not going to talk about the things that we talked about behind the scenes. You know. He says, "Hey, APG crew, it's Road Warrior JJ Pittsburgh here. First off, it was great getting to meet Captain Dana, Captain Jeff, and Dr. Steph on separate occasions. You were all so sweet." So, was that who did that? Was that Nick?
That was not me. Nick. I just want to go on record and say that was not me.
That was not me.
So, as I was heading to Charlotte for the meetup, I noticed some signage stating that speed limits were enforced by aircraft. I was curious if you had insight as to how that all works. Hope to meet you all again soon. Except Captain Nick. Peace and love, JJ. So I was wondering the same thing myself, because I have seen those signs, speed limits enforced by aircraft.
Virginia.
Yeah.
Virginia.
So this is from Mental Floss. When you're traveling for the holidays, you might notice some signs on the highway that read speed limit enforced by aircraft. If you're like me, those signs conjure images of the cops scrambling a team of jet fighters to take a driver with a lead foot off the road. In reality, it's a little less exciting. Here's how it works in Pennsylvania. Certain lengths of highway that are known to be trouble spots for speeding are targeted by the State Police Aerial Reconnaissance Enforcement, SPARE or SPARE. Other states will have their own names for similar programs, marked with start and finish lines at a set distance from each other. I think that for at least those of us here in the United States, you'll probably recall seeing big, bold, white lines in the roadway, and that's what those are used for. They're speed marks. Or what they do is they use like a special kind of a stopwatch thing, and they from above look at the car crossing that line and hit the
What do you
start.
mean special kind of stopwatch? It's a stopwatch.
Well,
what else is special about it?
Well, they might. Some police departments use VASCAR systems, whatever that is. I don't know what that is.
That's a special kind of a
Oh, yeah,
stopwatch.
it's visual average speed computer and recorder.
Yeah, that's the special darn stopwatch I'm talking about. I don't know. Anyway, so they basically do a simple, distance over time kind of a calculation and determine your speed from that. And then they swoop down in their airplane, and they have these special little grippy things on the airplane that grab the roof of your car, and then they lift you up from the. No, wait a minute. They don't do that. They radio.
Like wacky races to me.
They radio a police officer in a car and say, "Hey, that yellow Ford Pinto." They still have those on the road.
So some of these counties have more money than sense.
Well, yes. Actually, I did a little bit more research, Nick, and from Slate, they basically said that pretty much most states don't really do that anymore.
Yeah, Virginia doesn't actually use it right now. They can't take the signs down, though, because the Virginia State Police are still authorized to use their Cessna. They don't say which kind of Cessna, but probably like a 172 or 182. Yeah. They are still authorized to do that, but they don't.
One of the problems is that if you get a ticket from this kind of enforcement and you say, okay, I'm going to fight this and take it to court, well, the person that gave you the ticket in the patrol car and the pilot of the aerial reconnaissance vehicle have to show up to court, and that costs a lot of money. And so, yeah, it's not very effective.
Well, apart from the cost of flying a helicopter or an airplane around and the bloke on the ground just to catch a guy speeding, I'm going, well, you just put a speed gun out there. Or if you've got a guy on the ground, just give him a speed gun. Save the cost.
It's intimidating, though, when you see that sign.
I was thinking you'd have to issue an awful lot of speeding tickets to cover this cost.
Yeah.
Yes.
Virginia does. Having been to traffic court in Virginia.
Oh.
There were a lot of people there that day.
Did you win?
We'll call it a draw.
Okay.
Somehow I won and still had to pay them money.
Oh,
No low
congratulations.
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
no low contende.
Yeah.
But
So-
I was not caught by aircraft, just for what it's worth.
So I guess when they say it on the sign, I think it's just a bad use of words. I don't think they really mean that the speed limits are enforced by aircraft. Aircraft may have something to do with judging whether or not you're exceeding a speed limit, but I don't think they actually enforce it with the aircraft. Right?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Or they could actually just put a machine gun in the airplane, and then
that would be enforcement.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, you're speeding. Sorry.
That's it.
Take you out now.
You're gone.
50 cal coming over.
Yeah. See if you can outrun this bullet.
Next thing they know, this thing in a warthog. Blow him up. He's done.
Yeah.
I think there would be a lot less speeding.
There would. A lot less driving.
I can't drive.
Thank you.
How you guys would turn it into a sport?
Hey, JJ Pittsburgh, thank you. Great question. And now we know the truth. James writes. Actually, he sent us some audio feedback. Let's hear it.
Hey there, Captain Jeff, APG crew, and APGers in APG land. James from Albuquerque here. Just wanted to send a quick feedback. My wife was curious. We have just recently rewatched Miracle on the Hudson, and she wanted to get the perspective of pilots and your personal opinions. Put into that situation, would you have done things the same way, made the same decisions that Sully did? Or would you have done something differently and try to make it back to the airport or another airport? She just wants to get the opinion of real life pilots. And I also am curious what your thoughts are. Knowing what we know, that he made a good decision and saved a lot of people's lives. Would you have thought about things the same, or would you have thought maybe getting back to the airport was a safer bet? Anyways, still enjoying the podcast. You guys keep it up, and hope to see you guys soon at another meetup in New Mexico. Until then, safe landings, clear skies, and tailwinds. Thanks.
Thanks, James. First of all, I would not have hit the geese to begin with, so it's kind of a moot point, really.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
Or at least do it in July, like they mentioned at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
A little warmer.
So,
sorry.
I don't think that we really can say what we would have done, because having experienced that situation without any previous knowledge of this happening, you have to just react. And there's absolutely no way that we can say, oh, I would have done this, because you can't say that, because we all know what happened. And so just they kind of inferred that in the movie, where they did the simulator scenarios, and they found out that these air crews could make it back to LaGuardia, could have made it over to Teterboro. But Sully didn't know that, and Jeff Sykes did not know that at that moment. They just had to use their perception of the situation, analyze it, and take the appropriate action. And they thought the appropriate action was a sure thing. I see the Hudson River, I can put it down there. But after the fact, there are so many ways you can parse this whole thing out and say, yeah, we could have, based on the data at this altitude and this distance from the LaGuardia airport, you could have made it, with no engines. Yeah, but they did not know that. You know that because you have that data. But
well, I think the more interesting question is, what takeaways do you as a pilot take from that situation? You really look at their crew resource management, their decision-making skills, and try to emulate that, in my opinion. Just taking in the big picture, knowing what you have at your disposal, what you don't have at your disposal. I mean, gosh, New York and New Jersey, that area around the city is just so densely populated. I don't think any pilot in the moment in their right mind would try to turn back over a populated area when they have another alternative.
Right.
You know?
I mean, there's so many variables to that. He might have had partial thrust on an engine. He might have had it happen at an earlier altitude or a later altitude. And there are so many variables to put yourself in exactly that position with exactly that problem is never going to happen. It was a 1 in a million event. And the chances of having your bird strikes destroy both engines at exactly that point on a departure, it's just so remote as to be almost counterproductive imagining yourself through that scenario, because when it happens to one of you guys, not me anymore, thank the Lord, it's going to be in a slightly different scenario. And if you've got it in your head that the safest thing to do is to land it in a river, that might actually bias you towards turning for an airfield that you might still get to. So sometimes thinking through these scenarios can prepare you to do something that is not actually appropriate when it happens to you, because the situation isn't quite the same.
So true. Wow. Oh, and by the way, I said Jeff Sykes, and it's actually Jeff Skiles. Thank you, Liz, for pointing that out. Sorry.
49% again.
I know. Sorry. Bringing us down. Dana, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I was just going to say that it's Monday morning quarterbacking. We can all sit back and evaluate and try to think about, as Nick so eloquently put, what we would do and how we would handle it. But every variable is different, and we can, we have the luxury of time to sit back and make those decisions and try to analyze that. I can't sit back and make those decisions and analyze that because I wasn't there and didn't have all the parameters that were in my mind at that time because I wasn't there. So I can't really put myself in his shoes per se and make a judgment call based on what he saw at that time. All I can do is, if I was in that situation and I can't predict what my situation would be, that I hope that I would make the right call versus trying to predict what the right call should be.
Yeah. And by the way, for those of you in the chat room, not amusing at all.
Sorry.
They're coming up with ideas for a Sully remake based on the APG crew, and they're suggesting that Wilford Brimley or Colonel Sanders, for my part,
play you in the APG movie.
Yeah, and Colonel Sanders is not even alive, so that's not even funny.
Kevin James, my word.
Kevin James and Sandra Bullock for then that's
Jim
Belushi.
Yeah, I'll take.
No, that's perfect.
Lane,
that's good. Jim Belushi, I'll take that.
I like everybody's is really, really nice except for mine. So thank you very much, everybody.
Isn't Jim Belushi dead as well?
They're all dead to me.
John Belushi.
John Belushi, yeah. Jim's still alive.
Jim's still alive.
Oh, okay.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Okay. I think that's enough of that, unless you guys want to talk about it a little bit more. Thanks, James Graves Brown.
That's true. Steve Horn did say Harrison Ford.
For me?
Yeah.
Oh, I love you, Steve. Sean Connery for Captain Nick. That's nice. Okay. 5. Brandon sent in some audio feedback regarding a discussion we had about standard radio phraseology on an earlier episode. And just a reminder, Brandon is the host of the very, very wonderful podcast called Podcasting on a Plane.
Hey, APG crew, it's Brandon here from the tower. And guess what? I have some comments on Blaster Bill's title feedback from Flight 375. First off, Blaster Bill's comments at using standard ICAO phraseology, well, I think they're basically dead on. Aviation is global in nature, and thus it's reasonable that we have standardization everywhere, which of course is a central reason for ICAO's existence, right? Well, as a controller in the US, I can see that we do struggle with this sometimes because our phraseology, well, it isn't always 100% ICAO aligned, but usually it's close enough not to cause a problem, unless, of course, we go rogue with slang, which I think was his central point. As Captain Nick and Dr. Steph mentioned, we often exist in a bubble in the United States for a number of reasons, and many pilots and controllers and room makers can work an entire career here and have very little concern with how it's done elsewhere. But that's unique because pretty much nowhere else in the world can say that, and it's hard to keep that in perspective sometimes. We do make an effort to align with the rest of the world, though, and one of the most notable changes in the relatively recent past was the change to line up and wait from position and hold, which was a major confusion point for a lot of foreign pilots. Dana mentioned also the Pilot Controller Glossary, which is an amazing resource for pilots in the US to learn the phraseology they can expect to use when they're operating in the ATC system. But the actual manual with all of the required phraseology is called the 7110.65. Awesome name, right? Well, it's a government order, and orders like that follow a numbering system. It's pretty good, and it's not unlike the Dewey Decimal System, although it does lack some artistic creativity. But that's our manual, and everything we use is in it. We need to stick to the phraseology in there, and we need to say it at a rate that's understandable to the receiver. And here, of course, is where things get a little sticky. Here's why. First, the uniqueness of the USA is that, as far as I know, we sling way more traffic in our system than just about anywhere else in the world. From the smallest airports up to the biggest ones, and all the way up into the flight levels, our system capacity is really high, and yet it's still packed a great deal of the time. And when things get busy, they get really busy. And when they do, well, sometimes us controllers can't talk even half as fast as we're thinking, and even that is at least double as fast as anybody else can understand. So when the auctioneer voice starts coming out, sometimes it's hard to notice until the pilots start asking us to say again, please, slower. And unfortunately, regional accents and dialects come into play here too. Right, Captain Dana? If you've got a thick accent, well, sometimes you don't know others aren't getting it, even if you're still technically speaking English. I know all the New York jokes revolve around this. I remember my training class way back when there was a kid from, guess what, New York, and he had a really thick accent. The voice recognition in the simulator understood him maybe 50% of the time on a good day. Training wasn't easy for him. Interestingly enough, though, if you're ever flying in Southern California, like maybe around Orange County, like in the John Wayne Airport area, there's a female voice you might hear there, and she has probably the thickest accent I've ever heard from a controller voice in the US. A coworker says that she's Eastern European, but I can't verify that. I can't place it. What I do know, though, is that despite the accent, she speaks in such a deliberate and effective manner that the accent, it doesn't even matter. Listening to her work traffic is kind of like a case study in global standardization, and that it really does work, no matter where you're from. Because at the end of the day, voice communication is pretty much all we've got, right? And if it isn't effective, well, then what's the point? It's totally reasonable that pilots can expect things to be the same no matter where they are, and that we controllers know and stick to the script while we guide you around and keep you safe. But one last point I wanted to bring up is that at an airport like mine, there's a great deal of stuff that isn't directly covered by the .65 or ICAO. And the reason is that there are so many non-standard operations and requests, mainly due to high training density. The .65 covers all the routine stuff just fine, and even quite a bit about non-routine stuff too. But eventually, we are going to get down to something that doesn't have a script anymore, and we're going to have to do some improv. Believe it or not, that's actually covered too, right in the beginning, where the book talks about our duty priority and exercising our best judgment when necessary. Luckily, there's enough unmistakable phraseology buzzwords with clear meaning that we can piece something together in a non-standard situation that still makes sense, without the use of slang, which of course is probably left as a less than popular Def Leppard album and not as part of radio communications, but I digress. Anyway, one last place a little deviance might not be too bad is during that last transmission I have for you on my frequency. If it's not too busy, I like to throw in a small pleasantry in there like safe flight or so long, or my all-time favorite, good day, which, while outside the script, is in my experience usually understood just fine and usually appreciated too. Bravo Golf out.
Good day. Thank
Excellent
you.
discussion of that, Brandon.
Bravo Golf. Now, Brandon, this is the APG, not Opposing Bases podcast.
I think all of the air traffic controllers have just adopted this method.
Apparently so. It's like, come on. We can use real names.
He was in the chat room earlier, but he had to go back to work.
Oh, sorry I missed him.
And that was way too professional for our show.
I know. I shouldn't have played it.
That was excellent. I think he took what we were all trying to say and kind of fumbled over for a while and made it into a nice, concise, pretty package with a bow on top.
Very well covered, very logical. Loved it. Very good.
Again, probably shouldn't have played that. Liz, next time,
just show the
rest in the folder. All right. Thank you, Brandon. We love you. Goes without saying.
Hey, but that's increased our percentage, isn't it?
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We're probably up to about 55 right now.
Yeah, I think so.
53 at least.
At least. Not 55? Come on.
I've done some work against that today.
All right. Steph. Stop talking. Item 6, Larry Gregory says, from AvWeb, best radio call I ever got to make. I was a student pilot in the U.S. Air Force on my T-38 cross country. Our final leg was a short hop from Albuquerque to home at Reese Air Force Base in Lubbock, Texas. Of course, all surplus gas would be consumed with approach and landing practice. Departing Albuquerque, the TRACON asked for an expedited climb to something like flight level 220 and a report passing every 2,000 feet. With the blessing of my instructor, I had the true privilege of lighting both afterburners, pitching up, keying the mic and saying, Reese 69, passing 12,000, 14,000, 16,000, flight level 180, flight level 200, leveling, flight level 220, and then releasing the mic. Climb rate in full afterburner exceeded 6,000 feet per minute. Oh yeah, a lot more than that, which was the mechanical limit of our vertical speed indicator, our VSI. And that was from Jim McIrvin in Warrenton, Virginia. Yeah, if you in a T-38 with full afterburner, and I'm sure it was very similar to afterburner climbs in the F4 for Nick and the F-18, probably even more impressive in the F-18. Yeah, it happens very, very quickly. Probably 15 to 20,000 feet per minute, I would imagine, probably.
Well, I think initially it would be close on to 40,000 feet a minute, but it backs off, of course, as you lose your energy and the engines become slightly less efficient. But
I think I would pass out.
You'd love it, Steph.
No, you wouldn't, Steph.
No,
you would. No,
okay.
It would be.
I'm just imagining all of the blood, like as I'm pitched straight up, just pooling in my spine and not perfusing my brain anymore.
Your adrenaline is flowing, and it's just like such a rush. It's just amazing. It's just amazing to see that.
Well, I'd love to give it a try.
Afterburner climb. Yeah, you should. So the Thunderbirds out there. This is Stephanie, not Captain Al. She would love to have a ride.
You guys are great. Be happy to say nice things about you.
You've got to go with the Angels, not the Thunderbirds.
Well, either way, I'm not terribly picky.
Steph has never said anything negative about either of these.
Either team. And I've seen the Thunderbirds multiple times. I have yet to see the Blue Angels.
What?
Every time I show up at an air show, it's the Thunderbirds. In the US, I should say.
Oh, you need to do
better. They're flying F-18s, for heaven's sake.
Yeah, the Blue Angels put on a
This was not by my design. It's how it's happened.
All right. How are we doing on the time? Are we at the 2-hour point?
Who knows? Is it over yet?
At least.
What time is it? I don't know. She hasn't given me the 2-hour warning yet.
No, halfway through the show was at 6:30. That was 18 minutes ago.
Oh, okay. Well,
she'll give us a 10-minute warning before the 2-hour mark.
I love this. We're getting a lot of feedback accomplished here. Our good friend John Brown, or
Dr.
JB, as he likes to refer to himself. Again, this is not that podcast. This is the APG.
But he's going to talk about that podcast.
Okay. Well, all right. Let's play this feedback then, I guess.
Hello, APG crew. This is John Brown, alias Juliet Bravo, who has flown to the secret lair at Triad with my trusty first officer, Chris or also known as Charlie Papa. And so we've just spent a delightful hour with AG and RH, helping them record episode number 564 of Opposing Bases. So I'd just like to have Chris say a word or two, and then go pass it along to AG and RH.
Oh, thanks, John. I must say I would love to see where I am, but unfortunately the black hood you've made me wear to keep the lair secret kind of spoils it a bit. I've always wanted to know what AG looks like. I sort of got a glimpse of RH once on a Twitter post, but the black hood is impenetrable to light. But it has been good listening to the boys. And yeah, thanks. We had a great flight down and looking forward to a great flight back, and looking forward to removing the hood as we cross the border.
Hey, what's going on, APG? It's AG. I find it interesting that you guys are a stone's throw away down I-85 from the secret lair, and yet someone flew in a small plane 500 miles from another country to visit us, and we struggle to get you guys up here on a destination that frequently is in your is on your route. Anyway, still loving the show. Keep doing what you're doing, and I'll pass it off to RH.
Hey, it's Romeo Hotel. I want to say thank you to Chris and John for coming down to have our first face-to-face visit. Alpha Golf has revealed his face. Their hoods will be removed for dinner. It will be awkward if we if you didn't hear that, that was a compliment, I'm sure. We will have to take the hoods off for dinner. It will be frowned upon in this country to bring our guests in headgear. So they will see where we are going, and it was great having you guys. We decided to do a quick show today and record a show a couple days in advance, and give a shout out to all the APG listeners. I think most of our audience started back at the beginning, came from your show, and we really appreciate that and all the help you've given us over the years. So thanks again to Chris and John, and to all the APG listeners. Have a great week, and check it out if you want to hear Chris and John on our show. It's episode 74. We're not quite up to the 500s yet. So, all right. Thank you.
Thanks, RH. So back to Jeff and the crew in the studio. Juliet Bravo out.
So great to hear from all of you. You all are loved so much by all of us here at the APG.
I feel so ashamed right now. Like, I feel like that was an official call out. I don't know what I've been doing this past year.
You know what?
Fly to Triad.
I was listening to their show as I was traveling to Elon, and my hotel.
You drove right past them.
I was staying in the secret lair.
You were in the secret lair. Did you have to drive there with a hood over your head so you wouldn't know?
Yeah,
where
I
you
did,
were going?
and I had some issues with keeping it on the road. But
you got that lane departure warning system in your car, right?
Yeah, that's what kept me alive. But
yes. Opposing Bases 74 is out now as of 2 days ago. Go listen.
Great podcast.
Yeah.
So as is Brandon's podcasting on a plane. I mean, so many fantastic aviation shows, especially recently, the podcasting on a plane and Opposing Bases with that air traffic control kind of point of view is really educating for all of us. I've been learning a lot myself. So. And,
all right. Challenge accepted, by the way.
They were having a bit of a dig at us, but I'm just going to return the compliment because I sent in some feedback answering one of their questions of the week, and that was like 3 months ago. And they said, "Oh yeah, Captain Nick, we'll get back to your feedback," and like I'm still waiting.
And this is where they're going to turn around and say, "Steph said she was sending something in a year ago and never managed to do it."
Now you've reminded them. You shouldn't have said that.
I know. I got to think of new feedback because I can't remember what it was. It was something good. Maybe I'll dig it up. Now I don't know. Now I can't remember if they've actually covered it or not. But maybe I'll just bring it back up just in case.
Yeah.
But challenge accepted. I will come. Dana and I did visit with RH.
Yeah, and I just did come back from seeing RH. 2 weeks ago?
See.
Yeah. So what was that all about?
Yeah, no kidding, huh?
Yeah,
and that's before he just recorded this one.
I know.
What's up with that?
Talking about dissing.
I'll tell you what.
Man.
You know what? Okay, Liz, scratch anything
Sorry.
that that has
Pardon?
anything to do with opposing bases. Okay, we don't want to hear from that show anymore.
Never again.
Yeah, they're dead.
That's two podcasters we've scratched in one show. That's
Wow.
good
We're
going.
we're thinning it out.
Ruthless.
Yeah. Wow, Jeff.
Yeah. Well, you just got to get serious, right?
Definitely.
Okay. No, just kidding. Of course, we love them all.
My house smells amazing, by the way. I just want to put that out there. That's why you miss me I've been listening downstairs, but my house smells amazing. Just saying. Put that up there.
Well,
Liz has just messaged saying, right, no Brandon, no opposing bases. Got it.
Yep.
It's
That's right,
official
Liz.
now.
You got it.
That's it. So the senior producer has going to put a foot
Put
down.
that on block. Okay. Pasadena Brian from another aviation podcast. He writes in and says, Captain Jeff, Captain Nick, Captain Dana, Dr. Steph, and the lovely Liz. Hi there. I hope all is well with all the crew. This question is mostly for Captain Jeff and Captain Nick, although I'm assuming Captain Dana will someday care about this answer. As both of you rapidly approach your lack of employment day, Captain Nick reaching his first, I'm listening wondering how your lack of employment, retirement systems work. On a few shows now, Captain Nick has talked about how he is paid on a salary. Captain Jeff is paid on a more hourly rate based mostly on hours flown. Therefore, when it comes to retirement, how do they calculate your retirement pay? Is it a set amount? Is it based on the average rate of pay over the past 3 years or something completely different? Yes, I'm not wanting to know your specific pay, but how the systems work in general. As it seems like your flying pay differs, I'm assuming your retirement pay will differ as well. As always, thank you guys so much for doing such a great job on the podcast. Happy chemtrails. Thank you, Pasadena, Brian. And he says, P.S. I'm no longer the associate producer of the Airline Geeks podcast. However, I have retained the title of contributing editor. And just in case you're wondering, the pay for both of these jobs, like most jobs in the podcast world, are the same. Goose egg. Nothing. Okay. This is a good question. How are we compensated, if at all, when we retire? Captain Nick.
Well, there are two main systems in the UK that I know of. One of which is based on your salary, and you get a proportion of your salary, usually based on, say, what you averaged out the last few years of your employment, and that's paid to you. But that system is very much out of favor because there are a lot of pension schemes that are basically run out of money because, when a company gets so big, eventually it just stops being able to put enough money in this pot to pay all the retirees. So a much more common scheme is something like a group money purchase scheme, and that's just the money the company contribute a percentage of your pay. You have to contribute a similar percentage. The two are combined, and then that little bucket of money is put to one side, usually with an investment company, and that builds up during your employment, and you basically just keep pouring into that bucket until you've retire, and then whatever's in there you then have to invest or perhaps turn into an annuity, depending on what options you've got, to then live off for the rest of your life. So that's the system that I'm in. Now, the only other system I've heard of is, say, someone like Cathay Pacific. Now, this is based on pilots who joined, quite a while ago. I know that they were given a provident fund, so basically they were just given a cash handout to them when they retired. I think they had to do at least 15 years, and it was close to I think about £1 million, I think, sterling in those days. And that was just a lump sum, boom, here you go, off you go, do what you want with it. That was another system. What they do now, I don't know, but I think it depends on the company and how they're financed, and how the pilots perceive what is a good deal for them, and what the company can afford. So I don't know. What's it like in the States, Jeff?
So, as you said, it depends on the airline and it depends on the window of time. When I was hired 30 years ago by Acme Airlines, the system was amazing. It was our pension was based upon the best, I think, 3 out of the last 5 or 10 years of your service, and you got a 60% um, of that amount for your retirement. And in fact, I think half of that was advertised so that you could get a lump sum, which meant that many of these pilots that were flying for Acme at the time that were hired prior to 1972 were getting lump sum payments, half lump sum payments of $1 to $2 million. And then they were also receiving, I don't know, $6,000 a month or something like that for their retirement pay. And it was just like, wow. I mean, I can't believe that we could get anything better than that. Well, when we suffered bad times in the airline industry here in the United States, and then, bankruptcy, 9/11, all that, we basically at Acme agreed to dissolve that pension benefit. And so we no longer have that. And that was to help keep the airline running. And now it's more of a, what do they call that? A defined benefit, I guess. Or yeah, defined benefit versus a defined contribution. So it's, the company puts a certain amount, a certain percentage of your pay into a 401k. And then of course we are allowed to contribute a certain amount to that retirement fund. But basically it's much more individually financed or managed than it used to be. But I don't know. Anything else to add, Dana? No. Oh, Dana's gone. Anyway, so that's the way it works, at least at Acme. But again, it depends on the individual airline here in the U.S. They're all different, and it's not as great as it used to be, but it's still better than nothing.
Yeah, don't forget though that I'm going to mention this only because I hate the system. A lot of our airlines here, in fact, one of the biggest airlines in Europe, Ryanair, I think. I might not get this exactly right, but because the great majority of their pilots are effectively self-employed, they are given a contract by a third party who then contracts their work to Ryanair, so they're not directly employed by Ryanair. They won't get any kind of a pension at all. So they will. The only way they're going to get a pension is to save, make their own saving pot, and I think that's a pretty dire way to, unless you're getting a really good salary. That is a dire way to try and build up a retirement fund.
Yeah,
I'm back, Jeff. I was listening to you. Yes, as far as what Acme has to offer, I actually like the defined benefit better. There's a lot of people out there that would like to have the pension back, but I like having control over my money. So, sorry, I just ran up the stairs, trying to catch my breath.
Easy. Whoa.
So, anyways, yeah, I think in the States, it's gone the way of most pensions, unless you're a government employee. I think a lot of pensions are gone by the wayside now. It's all going to be a 401k and whatever you can put into a money market account or Roth IRAs, and you're more responsible for your money and not dependent upon the company to providing that. And as we saw, as you mentioned, Acme went through that tough time. A lot of those pensions went away, and guys were kind of left hanging out there with no real way of making money for quite a while. So I think the ability for us to control our money is a much better option, and I like the way it's working. And we just need to hopefully get a little bit more, and maybe there's a couple other avenues that can happen that we're talking about, and could actually provide us some benefit as well. But we'll have to wait and see how that comes about.
Right. Part of our contract negotiations, I don't like to talk about that kind of thing on the show, but one of the things that our Acme union is trying to negotiate is trying to return back to those good old days of the pension benefit. Not sure where that's going to go, but I agree, Dana, that being responsible for your own retirement funding is a way to go. But as long as you know that that's what you have to do when you start your career and assume that it's going to be a certain thing, and then all of a sudden halfway through it just dissolves, and now you're back to square one and thinking, oh, okay, now I'm responsible for doing this all on my own. It's kind of a frustrating thing, but
And I can definitely see that point, Jeff. And what it was is it's complete blindside. Now, if there was a transition of some sort saying, "Hey, this is what's going to happen. Prepare."
Yeah.
This is what we're planning on, instead of being stonewalled, and that's exactly what happened.
Right.
So,
Steph, how about your system?
Oh no, I have never been in a position where a pension or anything like that was ever even an option. So from day one, it's been save your own money, make sure it's well invested, and tax advantaged plans are really important.
Yes. I'm sorry. I think I cut you off, Dana. Go ahead. Did you have something else to?
Nope, I had nothing
add?
else to say. Nope.
Okay. Well, that was a great question, Brian, and I hope that helped to answer that. And I think now would be a good time to go with our weekly installment of the best part of the show, which is the Old Pilot's Plain Tales. And this week's episode is entitled RAF Form 14, Volume 3. Here we go.
The Old Pilot's Plain Tales, RAF Form 414, Volume 3. Time for a little more self-indulgence, as this is an auspicious month for aviation anniversaries in the Old Pilot's world. We last left my logbook tale as I completed the F4 Phantom II operational conversion unit and received my posting to the wilds of Scotland to join number 43F Squadron, the Fighting Cocks, at RAF Lucas in Fife. To put this into perspective, it was May 1978, the year that Space Invaders became a thing, that the movie Close Encounters came out, and the very first Garfield comic strip cartoon was published. Although I didn't know it at the time, it was also the anniversary of the very first flight of the Phantom II. It was on May the 26th, 1955, that 4 Navy officers arrived at the McDonnell Douglas offices and, within an hour, had presented the company with a set of requirements for a new all-weather fighter. They wanted a fleet defense fighter that could patrol 250 miles from its carrier, loiter there for 2 hours, and be capable of bringing down anything that might come its way. McDonnell Douglas had previously lost out to Chance Vaught with an aircraft design, but they had continued to work at building an aircraft that they felt the military actually needed. With the funding available, the design progressed into the XF-4H1, which made its maiden flight on May the 27th, 1958. I was 3 years old. In May, 20 years later, I had joined my first fighter squadron to fly F-4Ks, or as the RAF designated them, the Phantom FG-1, referring to its roles as a fighter and a ground attack aircraft. 43 Squadron had been reformed and converted to the F-4 in 1969, when the 20 aircraft that had been earmarked for HMS Eagle were diverted to the Royal Air Force, after the cost of refitting the carrier to fly the Phantom became too high for the government to stomach. After the arrival of the Sepicat Jaguar GR1s, the RAF F4s gave up their ground attack role and became purely an air defense asset. When I started flying on 43, the aircraft were still in their youth, being only 9 years old. But when I did my last flight on them, some 8 years later, they were definitely starting to show their age. The squadron I had joined had an impressive history. It had first been formed on the 15th of April 1916 in the shadow of Stirling Castle in Scotland, and it operated various types until a few months later it was equipped with the Sopwith 1.5 Strutter and deployed to the Western Front to carry out fighter reconnaissance duties. During the First World War, it flew the Sopwith Camel and the Snipe as well, but distinguished itself, producing 10 fighter aces. After the war, it was reformed with Snipes, but was soon given the Gloucester Gamecock, from which it gained its name and distinctive black and white checkers. As the Second World War loomed, the Fighting Cocks were flying the Hawker Hurricane, and in early 1940 they were the first squadron to down an enemy aircraft over British soil. 43 covered the retreat from Dunkirk and then fought in the Battle of Britain from the famous fighter airfield of RAF Tangbia near the south coast and in the thick of the fighting. As a youngster, and after the old airfield had been relegated to become a parachute dropping target, it also became home to number 623 Gliding School, and from its historic runways, I was to fly my first ever solo flight in a glider. I was there in 1968 when the airfield officially closed. As the RAF ensign was lowered for the final time, a single Spitfire flew over in salute. 43 was to continue on, however, and by the end of the war they had been based from Scotland to Sicily and many points in between. At the conclusion of the war, they were disbanded, only to reform in the jet age, first with Gloucester Meteors, and then with the Hawker Hunter, with much of their flying being done in the Middle East out of Aden. And they moved from there, it was to reform with the Phantom at Lucas. In my quiet moments, I would leaf through the old handwritten squadron diaries, which were kept in glass cases in our crew room, and marvel at the exploits of those pilots who had gone before. Being tall and with a fairly new uniform, I was soon given the formal duty of squadron standard bearer. The standard was the equivalent of the regiment's colour, a traditional rallying point in battle. This beautiful, heavy silk flag was mounted on a long wooden staff topped with a golden eagle. On the standard, in fine silk thread, was embroidered the squadron crest and its battle honours, from the Western Front, Ypres and the Somme, to the Battle of Britain, North Africa and Anzio. When the squadron was disbanded recently, following the retirement of the F-3 Tornado from service, the standard was laid up in the Church of the Holy Rood in Stirling, the squadron's birthplace. Joining such a famous unit was daunting enough, but in addition they had a strong cadre of very experienced crews. Apparently, they hadn't had to put up with any new pilots for some time and weren't too pleased to have the irksome job of bringing a new driver up to combat-ready status. For me, it meant another 6 months of training. Our venerable squadron QFI, John Abel, was the first to be subjected to my flying skills with a dual check before the lovely navigator, Bob Lawley, led me around the diversions that we might use in the local area. It seemed that it was traditional to beat up each airfield in turn, a task that I enjoyed enormously. Then came my night dual check, which, after managing to get all the upper air work done, concluded with a number of night circuits in various configurations and heights. Nearing the end of the trip, I heard a loud metallic clang from the left side, and after a nervous glance outside, before I remembered it was night and I couldn't see anything, I spotted the left engine was getting very hot indeed. With the turbine gas temperature reaching 900 degrees centigrade, John suggested that I shut it down, and we could make the next circuit a single-engined one to land. It turned out that the two-sticker, the aircraft on the squadron that could be flown from the back seat, had a dodgy ramp controller. The moving ramp was part of the intake design that would deflect at high speed to create a series of supersonic shock waves inside the intake, which slowed the air entering the engine and improved its performance. However, when the ramp cycled itself at circuit speed, it disrupted the airflow sufficient to surge the engine, leading to the overtemperature. For me, it was my first ever engine failure, but listening to John's calm voice and his matter-of-fact approach to the emergency taught me a very valuable lesson. It would serve me well in the several engine failures that I would deal with in the future. Very quickly, I was back into training mode and off with Andy Kirk for the first of my convex trips, learning about the sharp end of being a fighter pilot. I had tried this trip the day before, but the mic tel lead that connected the electrics in my helmet to the aircraft had stopped working soon after takeoff. Left with no way to communicate to either my navigator or the outside world, I tried shouting to my nav and even took off my helmet to try and fix the problem. This is when I discovered the noise levels that existed in the cockpit of an F-4. Inside the protective earpieces of the helmet, the cockpit noise averaged around 90 decibels. I can't quite describe how painful it was to momentarily experience the unadulterated noise of two mighty spade jet engines only a few feet behind me. I quickly realized how useless it was to try and shout over it, so resorted to scribbling on a sheet of paper and holding it up in one of the few gaps between the cockpits where the nav could see through. I assumed that I got my message through, so headed back to Lucas and did a no radio join and landed off a green flare shot from the runway controller's caravan. As an aside, I reflew the trip with Andy Kirk, but it was only today that I looked to see who I flew my very last Phantom trip with some 8 years later. By an amazing coincidence, it was also Andy. By then, I was both a qualified flying instructor and weapons instructor, and I was filling in for a few weeks, flying with the Operational Conversion Unit as a Phantom flying instructor before deploying to Australia to work with the Royal Australian Air Force. Andy, now a squadron leader, was doing a quick refresher course before taking up a flying post. We did an air combat sortie together, and it was a very fitting end to my time with the Phantom. I should get back to the beginning, though. Whilst I was thoroughly enjoying myself driving this manic fire-breathing beast around, the summer was drifting by. It was only for a short time in midsummer when the coastal waters off Scotland rose above 10 degrees and we got a break from flying in our full immersion suits. The rubberized, uncomfortable gear that would keep us alive should we eject over the North Sea and the thick bunny suits we wore underneath would keep us warm enough, but the cockpit of the Phantom wasn't like a cold sea. We got appallingly hot and sweaty. The room where we kitted up before a trip was testament to the blood, sweat, and tears that went into the average trip, and it smelled like a wrestler's armpit. I learned new arts like air-to-air refueling and fighting in an ECM, electronic countermeasures environment, when 100 squadron Canberras would delight in jamming both our radar and our radios whilst we blundered about trying to hunt them down. Apart from turning our radar scopes into a mess of green gloop, I have to admit that the radar generally looked like green gloop to me, they would try to trick us on the radio. They had a number of tactics like pretending to be our fighter controller and giving false vectors, or better still, recording the controller and then playing instructions back to us. They played music to blot out our comms or just very loud electronic noises to cover up the voice of our controllers. Once I got my air combat dual check out of the way and the low-level maneuvering tests passed, the flying became even more interesting. and I could get my teeth properly into air combat, and I loved nothing better than being able to rack 6 Gs around in full burner and get through a whole mission in only 45 minutes. Then the squadron deployed to the Norwegian Air Force Station at Gardermoen. I was allowed along, which was fantastic, my first overseas trip. We took a bunch of aircraft supported by 2 Hercules C-130s, one full of ground equipment and spares, and one with our duty-free bar. We knew from experience that booze was very expensive in Norway, and that a lot of wheels could be oiled with a bottle or two of good Scottish whisky. The Norwegians were very good hosts and great pilots in their little Northrop F-5 fighters. Their airfield was surrounded with tall pines, through which taxiways wove, leading to the entrances of hangars that had literally been carved out of rock and were guarded by thick steel doors. Some of our equipment was stored in a small old-fashioned wooden-framed hangar, and looking around inside I could see swastikas carved into the beams. Not some right-wing graffiti, but the official insignia of the Nazis who had occupied the airfield during the war. Back home, it was more training for me. Night air-to-air refueling, and then came my first major NATO exercise, Northern Wedding. 43 Squadron was SACLANT assigned. That's Supreme Allied Commander Atlantic, which meant we spent a lot of our time flying enormous distances to defend a fleet who often shot us down out of ignorance or spite. In this exercise, there was a large NATO fleet punting around the eastern Atlantic area, and I got the chance to test my bladder's capacity flying TASMO, that's Tactical Air Support for Maritime Operations, or ADOPS, Air Defense Operations, under the control of USS Forrestal and USS Mount Whitney. It was during one of these tanker-supported flights that I stayed airborne for 6 hours and 55 minutes, and could have found it a bit boring, except this mission was about to become the most exciting of my life so far. We had been capping, flying combat air patrol, some 50-odd miles away from the fleet and several hundred miles from our base, and it had been pretty quiet. There hadn't been many targets to intercept, and we were just drilling holes in the sky when our American controller vectored us off to look at something he described as some visitors from the east. Unsure what that meant, I was buoyed up by Tony, my nav's sudden interest in the proceedings. A pair of Tupolev Tu-95 Bears were bearing down, see what I did there, on the fleet. This was to be my very first Cold War intercept, and as I swung our jet around onto the rearmost aircraft, I struggled to take it all in. The vast silver bombers, sporting their classic red stars, were descending in trail and were about to pass over the center of the fleet. I sat on the wing of both these aircraft, and the noise of the vast propellers filled the cockpit as they wended their way around at a mere 1,000 feet, presumably photographing the vessels of many NATO nations. It was truly a sight to behold, and I cursed that I didn't have a camera to record the event. Back home, having survived that bladder-busting mission, the average mission length that week of flying was over 4 hours, I realized that I'd done something that many pilots had never achieved. I'd seen the face of our Cold War enemy, and I wasn't even combat ready yet. That event was to come a few days later with the successful flying of my Phase 3 Visident check ride. The Visident was a visual identification that, for the Phase 3 check, had to be flown against a lights-out target at night and at low level. Closing up using the radar, the pilot would follow the navigator's instructions until they became visual and could continue to close into close formation. It required a gentle touch, smooth, accurate flying, plus the difficult task of maintaining a good instrument scan whilst visually looking out into the inky blackness for anything that resembled an aircraft. The check successfully out of the way, and I was fully operational, but there was one more task yet to perform, one not quite so taxing. On Friday, after ground training, the whole squadron assembled in the crew room to watch me quaff a quart of beer from the large pewter op pot, without taking it from my lips and draining it until it could be held upside down over my head. But the most fun moment was shaking the squadron commander's hand and receiving the squadron badge to wear on my flying suit, the famous fighting cock with the squadron motto, Gloria Finis. Glory is the end.
Wow. Another great plane tale. Thank you, Captain Nick.
Oh, well, thank you, sir.
So when you were
self-indulgent, that one.
when you were doing the that last, oh, I forgot to turn off the air conditioning. It's making a lot of noise. Sorry. When you were doing the last part of the plane tale there, where you were doing the low level at night checkout. So were you using VNav, or what kind of autoflight were you using?
That's funny, isn't it? Because you literally listen to a commentary from the navigator, and you're flying entirely on instruments, and he's just saying speed up 2, speed up 3 knots, left 2 degrees, left 1 degree, and he's controlling all aspects of the aircraft. So it's a real crew coordination exercise. And he very slowly tracks you in until you get to the sort of minimum approach height, when you're actually only, I have to remember exactly how far away, you're less than 100 feet away, probably. It might have been a little more than that. But at that point, you've got to be able to try and visually acquire this aircraft on a moonless night or with an overcast sky. Looking down against a target that's lights out against the Black Sea is
Please don't tell me you were hand flying the airplane.
Yeah. Bit of hand flying there. Yeah, there's no system to do it. And so and what's more, you've got the cockpit lights turned down so low so that you've got good night vision, that it was really hard to see the instruments as well, and hand fly and everything. So it was quite a task, and we always sweated. We sweated like pigs doing that. It wasn't hot doing one of those because you're not rolling around at high speed usually. You're flying at kind of a bomber speed. But you were concentrating so hard, and each one took 10 or 15 minutes to accomplish. So it was real trick flying.
So how old were you?
I guess 21, somewhere around there. Yeah.
So night vision is at optimum.
Yeah. In those days, you see quite well.
Now my night vision, not so great.
No, in fact, my vision, hearing, and many other bodily functions I'd rather not go into.
Easy.
They're not so great either. There's one thing I can still do, but I'd rather not talk about that on the show.
Chew your own food?
I've just seen.
I was going to say something.
I don't know. I think Jeff's guest has arrived, has he? Or,
Jeff has a guest?
Well, it wasn't his first officer possibly going to come and
I missed that part.
in.
If he was
I think it's Adult Trend Finder.
Oh, he's right. He's killed the aircon. That's what it was. Yeah, well done. So it was.
I'm sorry.
Oh!
Got to back off. So I love Steph's comment. I'm not sure everybody heard it. Chew your own food.
Yeah, I did hear it. I chose to ignore it.
Okay, good.
Yeah, sorry, I had to turn off the.
Hey, look, I had to give my dentist the cost of a Mercedes to get these teeth put in. So let's not have any rude comments. And most of them are still there. Only one fell out afterwards. What's this? They never tell you when you have an implant that, actually you might spend a lot of money on this implant, but it's a good chance it's going to fall out.
Oh, nice.
Oh, great.
Nothing is guaranteed in life, is it?
No, particularly in the medical profession. Did I say that?
Oh, no, it's true. I spend most of my day telling people that.
Yes, I just want you to sign this blood chip before I stab you in the back. Yeah.
That's why they do call it practicing medicine.
Oh, it's definitely a more of an art.
Oh, that was a cutting comment, Dana.
No, it's true.
It's true.
I'm not even going to argue with that. There's no reason to argue with it. I think I told it to someone today.
Brilliant. So that plain tale was a cheat because I don't need to do any research to do one of those. So whenever I'm short of time, like I was today, I bang out one of those. But I've still got another 2.5 logbooks to go through. So
nice,
plenty more to come.
That should keep us going for a while, and I love those. Actually,
well, it's very kind. Thank you.
Well, I do have to say something. I was sitting downstairs with my iPhone with listening to the YouTube version because I can't obviously listen from upstairs to downstairs on my computer. But so Julie was sitting there and we were having a quick dinner in that little break, and she commented on how fantastic Nick is of a storyteller. She said, "Did he actually live through this? And this is what he did?" And I said, "Yep, that's his experience in life. It's amazing." And she was absolutely floored at how awesome that story was and how well you presented it.
Well, tell her she's a lovely lady, and thank you very much indeed. Jeff, I'm going to have to do things tomorrow, and it's midnight, so I hope you won't mind if I leave you guys to deal with the rest of the feedback.
I was hoping you would want to leave, actually.
I was praying.
Yeah, okay.
I'd prefer if you stayed, but I understand if you have to go.
No, we all prefer, but we understand. So
yeah,
get out of here. Go get
some. Okay, brilliant, lovely guys, and I'll look forward to seeing you again next week. All the best. Bye, everybody.
All right.
Bye.
Bye, Nick.
Cheers. Okay. With that, I think we should move on with our feedback, and the next one on the list is from our good friend Stephen Ivey, and he has some feedback regarding the CRJ. Oh, wait a minute. As usual, after I do a plain tale, I diminish the volume with the sliders.
That's okay. Nobody wanted to hear what Steve had to say anyways.
Yeah. Yeah, that was great, Steve. Thank you. All right, here we go.
Hey, APG crew, FO Steven here. Wanted to leave some audio feedback for y'all. I know the past couple weeks y'all had hit on some subjects such as air stairs, crosswind limitations, and dealing with flying different variants of the same aircraft and all that. So I wanted to just give you some feedback about my airplane that I fly around. I fly the Canned Air regional jet, the 200, 700, and 900 series of that aircraft. I primarily fly the 200 right now, but I do occasionally fly the 709 as well. But probably the most recognizable thing about the CRJ series of aircraft is the main main cabin door with the built-in air stairs. That's kind of the signature on all the CRJ series aircraft. That was originally designed as the Challenger regional jet, or Challenger business jet, now is known as the Canada regional jet. So the three variants I fly again are the 200, the 700, the 900. The 200 first came around in the mid-90s. It was meant to replace the turboprop aircraft that regional airlines were using, and to just, get people there a little bit faster and all that. Of course, if any of you have flown the CRJ 200, you do know that there are some things that are not that great about it. From a passenger standpoint, the bathroom in the back is really tiny. The seat pitch is very tiny as well. And then the most important thing, the windows do not align with your eye level. You kind of have to look down and squat your head down, It's kind of gets painful after a while. And then for pilots, there's a list of things that kind of aren't that great about the 200 series aircraft. Main thing being that everything is manual as far as bleed systems go and electrics go. So you have to manually turn or push buttons to engage or swap your bleeds. And then for your first flight today, when you're testing all the emergency stuff, there's individual switches you have to hit instead of one button that tests everything. So it's just time consuming, just a little nuisance. And then the other thing about the 200 is that the air condition packs leave a lot to be desired. Generally, if it gets to be above 75, it can't cool the cabin down on the ground by itself unless you got both engines running with a little bit of power in, and even then it kind of struggles to cool everybody down. And then also when the 200 first came out, which was actually the 100, but they're not really around anymore, so the 200, the original engines didn't really have a whole lot of power, so it struggled to climb and make speed and all that. So they came out with a different variant of the engine, which is the 3 Bravo 1, and that's what's currently on almost all CRJ 200s. And it gives you a little bit better performance. Still climbs really bad. Generally, once we get above 20,000 feet, and if we're really heavy, we're lucky to see 1,000 feet a minute. Anything above 25, you're lucky to see 500. And if you have your anti-ice system on, the wings especially, you are lucky to see 200 feet a minute. So yeah. And then there's another issue with the 200 is when you're coming in for your approach and it's winter, you're picking up icing, you've got the wings on, so you've got to leave the power up above 80% to power up your wing anti-ice system. So that means that you're usually going to have your descent with the spoilers out while you have the power up. Kind of counterintuitive, but until you can get low enough to get the APU on, you kind of have to do that. Other than that, the 200 also doesn't have the leading edge device, which means we are a D category on the approaches, so we come in pretty hot. And we also don't come in like your traditional airliner. We don't kind of come in like at that nose-up angle, coming down to the runway. We kind of point down at the runway. And then when we get above 50 feet, we'll pull the power out, then pitch up about 2 or 3 degrees, let the airspeed bleed off, and just kind of roll it on with that trailing link gear that's on board. So that's the 200. And then the 7 and 9 are pretty much the same airplane with some minor differences. Obviously, they hold more people because they're larger aircraft, have bigger wingspans, and then they also have a forward cargo bin to put valet bags on for stuff that can't fit in the overheads. And then with the 900, you have the forward lav as well, which is actually not that big, and it's kind of aggravating to use personally. But anyway, it's also got a bigger galley space for the flight attendants and all that. With the 709, Bombardier upgraded a lot of the systems, and so it made a lot of things automatic, such as the bleed system, the electrical system, and then your fire test equipment also is simplified too, where you just push one button and it'll run the test for you and all that. And then also the APU has been upgraded to where it's a lot more dependable, and it actually has logic in it where it will shut itself down once you get both engines up and running, which is kind of nice. And then the other major difference between the 200 and the 709 is that they have leading edge devices, which for the 7 takes you down to a C category on your approaches, and then the 900 is still a D because it's heavier, and leading edge devices actually don't do a whole lot for it for lift and all that kind of still acts as a 200, with the only difference being that you are going to have that nose up pitch. That's for the 7 and 9 both. You'll actually be pitching up now instead of pointing down at the runway. So that goes into flying all 3 variants. How hard is it going back and forth? It's not hard. The main thing is remembering if you're in the 200, you have to swap the bleeds, and then if you're in the 7 and 9, not to point down at the runway when you're landing, because if you do that, you'll smash the nose gear into the ground, and then you'll just have a really bad day. So remembering to keep the nose up on the 7 and 9, and then with the 200 pitching down and swapping the bleeds. And that's really the only big differences between the three. Obviously, the 7-9, they've got bigger engines because they're a larger aircraft. Performance is better. Both aircraft, when you get above 30,000 feet, you can't climb but at a certain rate because the pressurization can't keep up with your climb rate. And then when they're both empty, they're just awesome aircraft to fly to. The 7-9 are like rocket ships taking off empty. It's kind of a cool thing. But one last thing about the CRJ series of aircraft, and this kind of surprised me too. You know, every aircraft's got a crosswind limitation and all that. Well, the CRJ series of aircraft, particularly the 200, if you ever look at them, they're kind of close to the ground as far as the wingtips. I believe it's right at 5 feet is your clearance between the wingtip and the ground. So when you're coming into land, you can't have any crab in, because if you've got too much in, you'll drag a wingtip and then bad things will happen. So at my airline, we're not allowed to land in any kind of crab. You have to have the plane straightened out with the wings level when you sit it down, which is a challenge some days. So the airline I work for goes with Bombardier's recommendation, which is the max demonstrated is 25 knots. Now, if you go look at our SOPM and you go look at our performance cards on the 200 specifically, it clearly states that this is not a limitation. Yes, so 25 knots demonstrated is not a limitation. That's just what's demonstrated. So when you're going through your recurrent and everything, they kind of see how high you can get your crosswinds up to. When you initially go through your check ride, getting your type rating, you've got a 35 knot crosswind you've got to be able to land in as an FO, which, you know, is pretty. I mean, I had difficulties with it. I still have difficulties with it, but I think anybody would have difficulties with 35 knot crosswind not being able to crab into it. But I'm limited to 20 knots just because I'm an FO and they don't, you know, this is the limitation for the FO is 20 knots. Captains, on the other hand, do not have a limitation at all. It's kind of what they feel comfortable with. And that same demonstrated applies to all three variants. And it actually, you're not in as big of a danger with the 7 and 9 because you're further off the ground with the wingtips, but you still have that 25 knot demonstrated, but it's not a limitation. So anyway, that's basically it. All I can think about the CRJ, kind of rattling on about stuff. But anyway, just catch up with me. Not flying a whole lot. Reserve in Atlanta is, yeah, it's kind of not a lot going on, especially when the weather's good and everything. So I've been sitting at home, catching up on life stuff. But I'll be going back to Chicago in June to get some more flying and get my hours in, and also have a little bit more variety in the flying instead of the all the cities we go to out of Atlanta, which are not very many. Not only that, be able to fly the 7 and the 900, which will be nice because summer is coming and air conditioning is great. But anyway, hope everybody is doing well, and y'all take care.
Thank you, Stephen Ivy, for all that great information regarding the CRJ. It's interesting about the demonstrated crosswind and it not being a limitation. At Acme, the certification demonstrated crosswind limits, or crosswind, whatever, not limits, are limits for us. And so on the Mad Dog, for instance, it's 30 knots. And, you know, if the winds are above that crosswind, we're not allowed to attempt the landing. But it's interesting that with the CRJ, you can, you know, there's no limitation at all, apparently, with the captains.
I honestly don't remember. It's been too long for me. I remember it was 25 knots. I remember that, but I don't remember if it's an actual limitation or was a limitation at the company or not.
I do know that there are some airlines here in the U.S. and probably around the world that the demonstrated crosswind is not considered a limitation. It's just
it's the maximum demonstrated crosswind.
Yeah.
You
When
know,
they
you can exceed it. You're just the test pilot at that point.
right, but
for the company that you work for,
my
yes,
company,
they can treat it as an absolute limitation. Sure,
we cannot be a test pilot. Yeah, unless you want
probably for good
to
reason.
out there and hope that everything goes well. But if something goes wrong, then good luck. Good luck. Good stuff, Stephen. Thank you. Great information, and hope that everything works out for you getting back to the Chicago base in June. I got to have coffee with Stephen a few weeks back in Atlanta. And as you mentioned, not getting used a lot in Atlanta. So he's looking
Yeah,
forward
hopefully that'll be
getting back to Chicago and flying a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean that's a double-edged sword. I mean, commuting is lousy, but when you're at the regional level, you don't want to be sitting around waiting. You want to be building your experience and flight hours, so that way you can hopefully move on to bigger and better things. So, good choice, Stephen. Go get some flying in, and great information on the RJ. I never got to fly the 700 or the 900. The 200, I agree with everything he said. The only thing is, I flew the Brasilia before the 200, so the air conditioning on the 200 was far superior. And I think over the years too, the wear and tear on those aircraft certainly have taken their toll. So they're not as young and sprightly as they used to be, and the air conditioning system probably has some abuse in it, and some of the filters may not be cleaned as often as they should, so that way they have better air. But I remember the AC on that 200 being pretty good when I was there, especially in the Dallas and Atlanta area.
What is this air conditioning that you're speaking of? I'm not sure.
I love when guys complain about the air conditioning on the 88. I love it. I remember having to take my tie off and pretty much take off my pilot shirt.
Yeah, it's not great on the Mad Dog, but it could be much, much worse. And you're right, Dana.
I laugh though. When I get on the airplane, when I was the first officer, now I'm captain. How in the world do people want to complain about it not being air conditioned up there when they turn off all the vents and leave them off?
Yeah,
that's the first problem.
What vents?
What?
Exactly. The 3 vents that I close every single time.
Oh, vents. I heard something totally different.
Yeah,
Never mind.
ENT.
So the Cirrus actually has pretty decent air conditioning, and you can leave it running basically the whole time.
We don't care about your stinking Cirrus airplane stuff.
It's lovely.
And it's great air conditioning system.
It has air
And the
conditioning.
autopilot. Oh yeah.
It has air conditioning.
It has air conditioning. And it actually does cool things down.
You know what I love? I love when you read these reports from passengers, and we were sitting on the runway,
On the tarmac.
Yeah, or the runway.
Yeah.
I love everything out there is a runway.
Yeah. We're on the runway for 3 hours.
And the pilots turned the air conditioning off for like 2 hours. Don't think so. We kind of like to be comfortable too. Why would we do that? Doesn't make any sense.
You're just mean.
Yeah, that's why. We have our own little air conditioning system up in the cockpit, and then we just turn it off and let you guys all suffer back in the back. Anyway. Well, thanks again, Stephen, for that. And let's skip to 12. And we have some audio feedback from Controller Vlad.
Hello there, APG crew, Captain Jeff, Captain Dana, Captain Nick, Dr. Steph, and all the APG community. It's Controller Vlad from Moscow, Russia, your longtime listener. And as always, I just wanted to thank you for your great podcast. You keep me entertained and educated and motivate me to learn new things every day. And your podcast is essentially a part of my life at this point. So, and as a feedback, I wanted to ask a question about the approach clearances that you receive from ATC, and especially the phrase like, cleared ILS approach runway so and so. What does it mean to you as a pilot? Maybe you have your own explanation, your definition, since I heard so many different variants from controllers, from pilots, and it seems that there is no clear unified understanding of this clearance, cleared ILS approach or cleared VOR approach. So ideally I'm hoping you could point me to some ICAO document that would clearly explain what does this phrase mean. So again, just looking forward to your reply, and thanks for your great job. Cheers.
Now, Vlad, I have to say, I'm not going to be upset with you, but it seems that you're kind of two-timing us here at the APG, because I was listening to Opposing Bases episode number 74, which is the latest episode, and you sent in feedback asking the same question.
Busted.
Yeah. You know, do you think we're not listening to other aviation podcasts?
Did they answer his question before us? They did, didn't they?
Here's the good news. They answered the question regarding the U.S. Air traffic control point of view, but he specifically was asking for ICAO and other, European or other than U.S. information. So I have to tell you, you came to the right place. And so I thought to myself, I don't really know the definitive answer, but I know somebody that will know the answer. And this gentleman's name is Adam Spink. And he's one of the supervisors at the Heathrow Air Traffic Control Tower. And he got back to me right away. Thank you, Adam. And he said, from ICAO document 4444, which is Procedures for Air Traffic Management, 8.9.4, Vectoring to Pilot Interpreted Final Approach Aid, 8.9.4.1, an aircraft vectored to intercept a pilot interpreted final approach aid shall be instructed to report when established on the final approach track. Clearance for the approach should be issued prior to when the aircraft reports established, unless circumstances preclude the issuance of the clearance at such time. Vectoring will normally terminate at that time. The aircraft leaves the last assigned heading to intercept the final approach track. And 8.9.4.2, when clearance for the approach is issued, aircraft shall maintain the last assigned level until intercepting the specified or nominal glide path of the approach procedure. If ATC requires an aircraft to intercept the glide path at a level other than a level flight segment depicted on the instrument approach chart, ATC shall instruct the pilot to maintain the particular level until established on the glide path. And then, of course, that's again from ICAO document 4444, which is Procedures for Air Traffic Management. And he adds, in the UK, we had a series of incidents in the 70s and 80s where aircraft would be cleared ILS approach and then would immediately descend to the height of the final approach fix, at which the published ILS approach procedure begins, 2,500 feet for Heathrow, for example, even at 15 to 20 nautical miles out. This was a problem because we would have helicopter and fixed wing traffic flying 1,000 feet under the final approaches, assuming the aircraft would be at least 3,000 feet over the top. In the UK, we now have several options to mitigate this. Number one, ask the arriving aircraft to report localizer established and only then give a clearance to descend on the ILS. 2, on intercept heading, give a conditional clearance, such as when established, descend on the ILS. Or 3, only if the aircraft has already been given descent to the altitude of the final approach fix, we just say cleared ILS. So there you go. There's some ICAO information regarding what it means when an air traffic controller gives the clearance for an approach. Okay. So,
and you know, and thinking about that, Jeff, even here when we're arriving into our lovely Atlanta airport, which, by the way, I'm very prejudiced. They are among some of the best controls, I think, out there. They give us pretty much the same type of clearance. They'll clear you to intercept the localizer, and then they'll clear you for the ILS approach. So it's a very similar type of procedure.
And we've had problems. I mean, all of the airlines in the U.S. have had issues with people given, clearances for an approach, and then the pilots putting in the final approach fix altitude and descending way out to the final approach fix altitude. And, Dana, you know what I'm talking about, where, this can really, be a problem when you're flying at night in mountainous terrain, when, you have to pay attention to the minimum vectoring altitudes, the minimum safe altitudes, the approach segment altitudes, etc. You can't just dial in the final approach fix altitude and assume you're going to be, okay to descend to that altitude. But yeah, that is what the interpretation is of, when you're cleared for an approach. Basically, you're giving the pilot authorization to use his best judgment to interpret what he should be doing with his course and altitude to fly the final approach segment. And you have to assume that they understand the limitations of the various altitudes. You can't just blindly put in the final approach fix altitude and descend to it, because that can lead to issues.
I agree with all of that.
Absolutely. Now, you fly in a place that's like in Florida, where you don't have a lot of high terrain, and you're probably going to be okay, but really, does it really make sense to, when you're that far out, to descend to the final approach fix altitude? I mean, I don't think so.
No, not at all.
Not at all. I mean,
you're going to put yourself in the way of other traffic, and
the smart thing in that case is either to use VNAV, or if you're lazy, if you're smart, you can go ahead and make sure you cross every restriction and dial down the altitude to each restriction to make sure you cross those restrictions. And as you mentioned, if you are 20 miles out and you're getting glide slope, which you really shouldn't at that point. Let's say 15, be more realistic. 15 miles out, depending on which airport you're at. Of course, land, we get it quite far out. But let's say you're, up there and you get on the glide slope, but yet that glide slope goes below the minimum step down altitude on the approach. They could be terrain there, as you're mentioning. Yeah. So it's always to your benefit to fly the published procedure, period.
Yeah.
If it's published, there's a reason for it. If it says to cross 15 miles at 6,500 feet or 6,000 feet or whatever it says, you make sure you cross it at that altitude. So you miss any potential terrain out there or any obstructions.
Yeah, most places, if you just maintain whatever altitude you're at and intercept the glide slope, you're going to be okay. And there are only a handful of places in the U.S. anyway, where if you descend below that, that you're going to be in trouble. But I always, they say, maintain this altitude until established or cleared the approach. I just maintain whatever the altitude is that I'm at, and I see the glide slope come down. I'll just wait for the glide slope to come down and then start down.
Yep, smart to do.
Yeah. Stay higher better, I'd say.
High to the flag, and then once you get the flag, then fly the flag.
Yeah.
As long as it doesn't have any restrictions on it.
Okay. Well, between the Opposing Bases podcast and our podcast, I think that we did a good job of answering that question for Controller Vlad. And I really think it's amazing and just very cool that we have people listening to this podcast in Russia.
From Russia. Yeah.
I asked Vlad to I said, hey, I have like little snippets, little audio snippets of the names of some of the airports around the Moscow area, which I never get right, and Rosaviatsia, the investigatory agency for Russia. I said, could you like record yourself saying those things? So we do have that, and I just haven't prepared it yet, but we have our own APG community member, Vlad.
Authentic Russian pronunciations.
Liz says that she thinks that Vlad lives in Thailand. Oh, I thought he was in Moscow. Huh. Interesting. Thailand. That'd be a cool place to live. Okay. Let's go with this next one, and it might be the last. Liz is directing us to do number 13 and probably end the show after this. Colonel Jeff. Everybody knows him as the good-looking Captain Jeff. I kind of take offense to that, but oh well. Jeff, now I've landed with iguanas on the runway in San Juan, as well as bald eagles harvesting a turtle in Tampa, but a gator taking the runway, that's a bit much. And he gave us a link to SF Gate, San Francisco Chronicle, I believe, website. Alligator blocks runway at Air Force Base in Florida. And there's a picture here at MacDill Air Force Base in Tampa. The staff at U.S. Air Force Base in Florida had to bring in a front loader to remove an alligator that was lounging on a runway. The Tampa Bay Times reports that the large reptile was spotted Tuesday morning at MacDill Air Force Base flight line. The base shared a photo of the creature on Facebook saying that the friendly alligator was just preparing for takeoff. MacDill spokesman, Second Lieutenant Brandon Hanner, says alligator sightings are common around the base, which is located on Tampa Bay. He says the alligator probably surfaced from one of the base's bodies of water. The Wing Safety Office's wildlife manager organized the animal's removal, scooping it into the bucket of the loader. At least the pieces of the alligator that were still no. I think they.
Oh, the poor alligator.
Yeah, I think the alligator was okay. They're tough animals, I think. But was that an animal? Is a reptile an animal?
Yeah.
We're all animals.
Okay. Well, but
not a mammal. Is that what you're thinking of?
Mammal.
I don't know. Is a insect an animal?
Yes.
Really? Oh, okay. Thank you. I love this show. I learned so much. Anyway, thank you, Colonel Jeff, for that. And with that, we're going to have to end today's show. Unfortunately, and I'm sad because we had some really good feedback still remaining in our folder, but we're going to move that to the next show's folder. Tim, the private pilot guy, sent us some audio feedback. Another Tim is a new listener on his journey to becoming an airline pilot. Swedish Gustav sent us a link to an article from USA Today regarding our pilots losing their flying skills. And I'd say yes. And then also a wonderful, interesting interview that Micah recorded with APG community member Mark Roboff about artificial intelligence. So all that and more is going to be on our next show. So again, thank you for listening and subscribing to the podcast and giving us reviews on Apple Podcasts and whatever podcast client that you use to listen to our show. And we have a wonderful website. Arash Maheen is our website guru who manages that. And there you can find information about the crew, the community. You can go to the calendar and look at the APG community calendar and see what's going on as far as meetups are concerned. Remember, we're going to be in a very big way present at the Oshkosh Air Venture 2019 in July. And we might be in your area as well. So please become an APG Slacker. Hilal will tell us about that in a moment. But lots of good stuff on the website, including the APG library. Our librarian, Tiffany, just added a new title to the long list of several great reads there. And so much more. We also have apps for our iOS and Android smartphones, and they're free and they're ad-free, so check those out. And we're also on the social meds.
The social meds. Head over to Twitter, twitter.com, and our handle there is @APG Crew. You can find all of us participating there or tweet us individually. Our individual Twitter information is pinned to the top of that page. Was that individual tweeter information? That would be not correct.
I like it though.
I know. Just making up words left and right here today.
I do.
You could also head over to facebook.com, and that's facebook.com/airline pilot guy. All kinds of amazing community interaction going on there. Stories being shared, events being discussed. And actually, we also have Instagram. So just @APG Crew on Instagram.
Yes, you are so correct. And hang on. So let's talk about Slack.
Hello? Hello? Come over here.
Okay.
Wow, his voice is changing all the time there.
Tell us about Slack, okay?
Okay. APG listeners, please join us on our Slack team. Slack is a communication, coordination, and sharing platform that works on your mobile, laptop, or browser. On Slack, we share ideas and news. We suggest episode and Playing Tales topics. We plan events and meetups. To get into the Slack team, please email me at slack@airlinepilotguy.com. That's SLACK, Sierra Lima Alpha Charlie Kilo @airlinepilotguy.com, or send me a tweet with your preferred email address to @Hillel, and I'll send you an invitation. That's Hillel, spelled HI11E1, Hotel India 11 Echo 1, and see you in Slack.
Thank you, Hillel. Now you can go back to wherever you were. And we also want to thank our wonderful producer, assistant,
Liz
Piper in Toronto. Yay, I'm looking for the applause. Where is it? I can't find it. Here it is. She does so much. She does so much behind the scenes. Thank you, Liz, for all your hard work and dedication to the success of this podcast. And finally, until next time, wishing you clear skies, unlimited visibility, and tailwinds. Take care. God bless.
Cheers, y'all.
Aloha.
Did I say unlimited visibility?
I don't know what you said.
Sounds like I did.
Unlimited visibility.
Well, hopefully I'll have the music up so high you won't be able to tell that I said that. Okay. Let's see. Let me well, it looks like my FO never made it. He sent me some texts, said that he was out with his friend. Wasn't going to make it back. Let me know if you need anything. But that's okay. Let's see. Let me turn off the uh-oh. Where's the recording?
Uh-oh. All right, good dress rehearsal, guys.
Okay, let's start again.
Perfect. Let's go.
Okay. And hit stop. I was looking at the wrong machine.
We all sound exhausted. Frank, I am exhausted.
We do. We are.
I'm not.
Frank. Yeah.
I sound exhausted?
No, Dana doesn't because
he's on vacation. He's like,
I'm on vacation.
The rest of us are working for a living.
Yeah, well, I slaved away around the house all day today. So,
did you?
I did. I barely made it onto the show in time. I was like, oh, I gotta go.
Well, thank you for showing up for us.
Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, I got to get up early again tomorrow morning, but I'm going to be in New York City tomorrow.
New York City.
Yeah.
Start spreading the news.
Mm-hmm.
I'm leaving today.
I'll be at the Sheraton downtown.
How is it? Have you done that hotel? Have you been to that new hotel?
Nice.
Is it nice?
Yeah, it is. Hey, you know the Syracuse hotel, where the cylindrical hotel where you go to the elevator, and it's these weird elevators. You put what floor you want to go to, and then it says, "Okay, elevator C," and like points to which elevator to go to, and then you get inside the elevator, and there are no buttons.
Yeah,
that freaks me out.
I was in a hotel in Boston that had elevators like that.
Oh, okay. You don't see
The
them.
Marriott, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it was like for certain floors. And you'd already told it which floor you were going to, and it would
Yeah,
tell you
so
to
you
go
get
to
in
which
and you
elevator to
can-
go to, and then it just takes you there.
There's nothing to push.
There's nothing to press. Yeah.
Elevator. And so the one that Dana and I always go to, the Syracuse one, we're going like, oh, that's right. This is a weird elevator. Well, the Sheraton that we stay in at Times Square, they say, but it's not really Times Square. It's like north of Times Square. Has like, I don't know how many elevators, but they're all that kind of elevator, Dana, where you hit the button and then you have to go figure out where the elevator is that you need to take to get to your floor.
Does it give you enough time?
Yeah, it gives you enough time, but it's just, you can tell everybody's looking around like, what? Oh, this is weird. What do we do?
It's got to be designed by Airbus, because you just in the initial vote, and after that you have no control.
Yeah, you're just like, just do what I tell you to do.
Exactly.
And you'll be happy.
And you'll like it.
It's a nice hotel. It really is. It's I would say it's nicer. I loved the Roosevelt, but this one's a more modern hotel and it's very nice.
Bigger, more normal size rooms.
Yeah, they're more normal than a typical New York hotel.
Okay. Roosevelt's the sister to the
yeah, but
Park Plaza.
Yeah, I thought was better than what'd you say, the mildew?
Park Plaza.
Oh, the Park Plaza. So you
Mildew?
remember
Are we talking about hotels still? What's
yeah,
going on?
Milford? Did you ever stay at the Milford, Dana?
No.
On Times Square? Wow. That was like going into a closet.
Was it really?
Yeah, it was like teeny tiny. So anyway, yes, you're right, Liz. I will shut this down shortly because we are tired and got to get up early tomorrow morning. But if you're listening to the show right now live and you're in the Manhattan area, give me a call because I'll be there tomorrow.
Call me.
That day. And if not, that's okay. I'll still have a good time. And
I forget where my overnights are this week.
Me too. Where your overnights are, because I don't know.
Yeah, I never put them out there. I should have.
It's all secret.
Well, Madison, Omaha, and Cleveland.
Ooh, Madison. I like Madison.
I do like Madison.
Omaha's not bad. And Cleveland, that's a nice hotel as well, the Renaissance.
That's the short one for me. It's only 12.
Never mind.
And we don't even land until 12:44 at night.
I don't like those kind of trips.
Nope. So next week, speaking of that, I'm working Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday nights, and then I am on reserve Wednesday and Thursday. So just for your planning, so you know.
Okay. Well, let's talk about that after we stop the broadcast.
Okay.
And then we'll.
Oh, I thought you stopped it. I'm sorry.
Nope. We're still. Hello, everybody. We're still here. Okay. Well, thanks everybody for joining us tonight, and hope that you will be able to join us next week. And until then,
whenever that may be.
Yeah, whenever that may be.
Bye-bye.
All that.
Bye.